Hello and welcome to episode 457 of the Awesome Comics Podcast, a place where the small press makes one hell of a big noise. My name is Vince Hunt, and joining me as always is the creator of the comic series Vanguard, Dan Butcher.
Hello.
A man who does not put parrots on his shoulder, instead he puts one of his many collections of small toys. What kind of toys? Well, that's up for you to decide, but it's Tony Esmond.
Evening.
The mood is jubilant in the studio tonight.
We've been mucking about a bit, haven't we, beforehand?
Yeah.
It's the bad influence of the other member here.
Yes.
Why wouldn't be jubilant?
Our secret member. This week, we're very pleased to be rejoined by the fourth Beatle, as I said, our secret member, and the voice from the outer world, Mr. Tom Curry.
Woo! I'm back, baby! I've made it back! Take that, Jesus!
It's even better when It's even better we're going to see you do that. That was the best bit of it.
Yeah. That's the most energetic Tom's been for the past 40 minutes. That's what
we can see each other, and I can see that Tom's got a bunch of flowers next to him.
Yeah.
Very nice.
It's all changed now that this show is moving into the 20th century. Yes, I got that right.
That's fine. That's fine.
Yeah. But welcome to the show, everyone. This is going to be... I tell you what, if you like sci-fi, if you like epic sci-fi, planet, just a wide-ranging, galactic, huge, epic, somewhat poetic, it's both horrific, triumphant. What other adjectives would you use, gents, to describe our topic this week?
Messianic. So it fits in with the Jesus theme of the actual weekend.
Okay.
By dealing with a Messiah.
Okay, it's Easter Sunday for anyone listening to this at any point.
Yeah.
That's Tony's word. Dan, what's your word for this particular topic?
Quasi-philosophical.
Nice.
Oh, nice.
Tom, you got a lot to live up to?
No, it's okay. I've got my word ready to go.
Go for it.
Dry.
Very, very dry indeed.
Yeah.
But I tell you what, this is going to be one hell of a spicy chat because finally
He didn't even write that down.
That's
off his top of his head, that was.
I'm letting the Velociraptors out of their pen.
There's no dinosaurs in this, Vince.
And
I know you keep saying you tried to read it. There's no dinosaurs in it.
Well,
Did you read Jurassic Park?
Is this the Jurassic Park week?
It's a Jurassic Park one, right?
Yeah. That's what I thought. No.
Arrakis Park.
No, and it doesn't matter what month of the year you're listening to this week's episode because we're going to be
a couple of months off.
We're going to be focusing on Dune, which is, right now it's hard to avoid it. Dune.
Vince has been getting in stereo from several chat groups.
Vince loves it.
Now, anyone who's listened to this show for probably like the past 2 or 3 years, it's become more prevalent, isn't it? I think.
We were there. We were OG. We're OG Duners.
These three here are long-time Dune fans of the books, the world, just everything in general. And I just wanted them to have
the comics.
And yes, exactly, the comics. That's what this week's all about as well. So we'll be talking about the universe, the adaptions, whether if you know these, the material or not, are the comics good for you, and a little exploration and a bit of fun to explore the Herbert universe, the Duniverse.
Sure, someone's been using that.
Loads of people. Yeah. I mean,
copied us.
I called you three Universal soldiers. I mean, I think
that was very good. That was pretty good, frankly. Yeah.
Quite like
that didn't get the love it deserved, frankly.
No. Which is why I've repeated it because
it was good.
Yeah, that's what
Universal for Dykin. That's what we are.
Yeah.
Don't use that kind of language,
okay?
Because otherwise we might lose our sponsor. Yes, our sponsor.
Oh yeah.
Who's that, Vince?
This show. Tom, every time
keep going, Tom.
He throws a hand grenade into my sponsorship ads every time, and God damn it, I love him for it. And so do Global Comics. Yes, our lovely sponsors. If you read digital comics, as more and more of us do, and that's how I get the most. Currently, that's how I pretty much get 100% of my comics right now. Global Comics is the place to go. If you look on the website or on the app, there's a huge library of titles available to read from thousands of indie creators, hundreds of publishers like Image, Boom, Tokyo Pop, TKA Studios, Source Point Press, Dynamite, Humanoids, to name but a few. The catalogue is growing, ever growing. And any particular titles you want to highlight this week, gents? I know, speaking of the topic, there's a section currently.
We'll probably talk about that later, to be fair, I guess. But I'd like to bring to everyone's attention Swan Songs, the collection, which is a book that we got sent through from Martin. It's just dropped on the app. We got sent through the book, the first issue from Martin Simmons. It's written by W. Maxwell Prince, who I know you're a fan of, Vince, because he did Ice Cream Man. But this is the whole collection. So it's 196 pages of the collection on there now. Also contains art by another favourite of yours, Vince, Caspar Wingard's on there. Philippe Andrade, Caitlin Yarsky, Alex Ekman-Lawn, and Martin Marazzo, who also did Ice Cream Man. Short stories, all about the end of something. Really, really great collection.
Yeah, because you recommended that back in the day when it first came out.
First one made my top 10 last year. Yeah, wow. Yeah, really did. Yeah.
Awesome. Damn.
I'm going to give a shout out to, there's a section on space epics. We've got Falling Awake, Sentient, Saga, and one I can highly recommend, which is the Prophet series from Image.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely fucking love that.
Are we talking about the reboot? Remember when they did Glory?
The reboot.
Yeah,
the reboot.
Who did
There's
the reboot?
little bits in it. Let me see if we can get there.
It was.
You can see to get the details up. It's a bit tricky sometimes to series info. It doesn't show.
Should show.
Hold on, we've got down the bottom. It's Brendan Graham, Farrell Dalrymple, Galanis Milanis, Marion Churchill, and Simon Roy as another writer. But when they did a little bit where he kind of lays out his gear and it does all these kind of like the explanation and lines of like the stuff he's carrying. Oh, it's fucking great. I don't know why I liked it so much. It's it's another little thing. I really enjoy it.
I think a lot of those sort of reboots, like The Prophet and Glory and stuff, obviously there was lots of talk about them at the time, and as with all comics, isn't it? 5-10 years later, everything goes a bit quiet, so some people might have missed these things. Do you know what I mean? Especially
I don't know why they didn't carry on, because both of those series were my favourite. I really enjoyed them.
Yeah, I think sometimes, and they were critically acclaimed, weren't they? So I don't know whether it's a case of critical acclaim doesn't always mean monetary value, does it? Unfortunately, but certainly all of that is on Global Comics now, and plus more. And with the app, which you can get on the Apple Store, Apple App Store, or Google Play, you can read all of those comics, and you can follow creators, set reading status filters, and release notifications for books you're looking forward to checking out in the future. I was notified that the House of Slaughter was added there recently from the Something is Killing the Children. I've just started reading that because of that.
Can I give a shout out to Chris, who sorted out my login problems on Friday?
Oh, yes.
Nice one, Chris.
The customer service is also top notch.
Yeah, pretty good.
You know,
yeah.
Obviously, I've got a little bit of a script that we read from here, but genuinely, they're great to be part of Global Comics, and they're just really, really good comics loving people. So whether you're an avid comics reader, creator, or maybe you're just someone new to the hobby and want to check out some great stories or read some Dune comics, then Global Comics is the place for you. So go to Global Comics, Global Comics with an X.com, and you can download the app, like I said, on Apple App Store or Google Play, and start reading digital comics like never before. And thank you to them, as always, for sponsoring the show. And this madness that we call a show every week, and it's certainly going to be quite an interesting week, I think, because we've got plenty to talk about in the second half. We've got loads of recommends and stuff, but I can see from
Tom's surprising us with something as well.
Yeah, he is. So,
but you have to wait, listener.
Yeah, no, I purposely haven't asked you what it is because I want to.
Be fresh, bit of that energy.
But right now, get ready to get spicy, because the boys are going to get the worms out. And it's time.
Cahill is shifting in my trousers.
Call forth a big one.
More deep, these nuts. No, but in all seriousness, I know there's a lot of comics fans and sci-fi fans who love these stories, franchise, whatever you want to call it. So for you and everyone else, here is a little chat about Dune.
The beginning is a very delicate time. Know then that it's a year 10,191, and three great houses have come together. House Esmond, House Butcher, and House Curry to talk about Dune and Arrakis in the comics. So here we go.
Lucky we haven't got House Wine here. You know.
Yes. We've gone off into the deep desert. Well, Vince has stayed in Arrakeen.
He's gone back to watch the Masked Singer or something, hasn't he? Yeah.
Maintaining the shield wall.
Yeah. The masked Telexian face dancer.
Oh, saucy.
Ooh. I see. We're going.
So yeah, this one we've been kind of like reading Dune comics and
reading novels and watching movies and yeah. So we've thrown ourselves into the research for this one. We've all been reading stuff, and I suggested to Tom, didn't I? Have you read this? And he went, "I read it already."
I was checking out. I was reading it totally. I was going through it. Watching movies about movies, and
I've reread the first book. Yeah, you do read way more than me, T.
No, for a while I would reread the first book every couple of years. I really, it's almost like my favorite book, I think. And we're gonna try and keep the chat to that first book. So those who are only sort of movie literate around this subject, the first book is the two new movies put together with more. So we're gonna keep that period. Sorry, Tom.
Can I just ask, just as someone who reads a book semi regularly, do you consider the first book complete, or do you think it needs the second book to round it off? And that's purely. No, I don't want to touch too much on Dune Messiah, but just out of curiosity.
Well, I think we're jumping ahead because the first question may answer. I think it might answer what you're talking about there, Tom. Because depending how much you've read as well. I know you've read them all, but so let's start with you, Tom. Then, what is your first exposure to? Now, I'm going to say Dune has stopped being a book series. It is now a massive hobby.
Yes,
essentially. So, what was your first experience of the Dune thing?
So, 2003. The BBC did a big read of top 100 books. This was, so it's obviously back in 2003, and they put out the list of the top 100 books, and I decided to read all of them.
Right,
so
nice, okay.
And then get to 100. And so the first one was Lord of the Rings, then Pride and Prejudice, and I got to a little book, number 39, Dune by Frank Herbert.
Oh, wow.
And that's what I got, and that's my first exposure to it. And at the time, I was, how old was I then? 2003, so I would have been 14. So read it then, and it was all from get it from the library and stuff. And it was part of like a let's read these 100 books over the course of over the course of like 2 years or so. You know what I mean? That was kind of like really just get through it as quick as I could. And then in 2013, I was watching. I was reading a lot of comics, and there was a comic book YouTube channel called Comic Book Girl 19. And she was really good for promoting different comics, and she got me into the God Butcher run for Fall, and loads of other things. And then she did this whole little series on Dune, and particularly around Jodorowsky's Dune film. And in 2013, 10 years after the big read, Jodorowsky's Dune documentary was released, and it just sounded so. I had this vague memory about when I was 14, I read this. I had this vague memory of it was kind of quite a wild sci-fi book. And then I went back and then, read Dune, went through the humanoid stuff and went through the Incal, the Metabarons. And that's kind of where I got to.
Yeah, because that's a big connection for you, isn't it? The Metabarons Incal.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
because it lifts so much, doesn't it?
And watching so I think I was enraptured by the idea of the Metabarons. Do you know what I mean? At the time. So I'd read the Incal, read the Metabarons, absolutely adored it, and I think I've come on this podcast enough times and talked about it. And there's an elephant in the room, right? Jodorowsky's not a nice person. That's what I mean. There's a big elephant in the room on that one, and the Holy Mountain. It's some weirdness there, right? But
very much so.
Actually, just like that story and that I loved it, absolutely adored it. Frankly. Okay, and then went. Go on, sorry, man.
No, go on, man.
No, and then went to Dune. Went back to Dune. I was like, oh, this is absolutely wild. And then again, back to libraries, Messiah, Heretics, Children, got it. You know what I mean? The whole, finding them where I could in charity shops. And then, just going from there, frankly.
Trivia insert. Do you know what Dune was originally called when it came out in pulp?
No.
Dune World.
God.
Dune World.
Dune World.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, before it got a proper publishing deal, it was put out in a couple of pulp books. Yeah,
I'm glad they got rid of that world. That's completely
unnecessary.
unnecessary.
What about you, Dan?
this is a bit of a weird one. We had like extended family, like my uncle, who kind of had a bit of a side family, and my aunt took the two boys, who were older than me, to see the film, and I didn't know anything about the film, so this must have been like 1980s odd. And they came back and they had some toys of the film, and I was all about fucking sci-fi and everything like that. So when they got the figures out, like the Baron, they had a sandworm, they had Paul Atreides, and I was like, "What is this film?" Like
that sandworm's worth a few quid now.
Really? Yeah. It's not to scale, is it?
No,
it's tiny.
No. Yeah,
but like it was only till a couple of years later when I actually saw the proper the Lynch film, and then I just like, right, okay, let's read the books. And I think I only ever started reading Dune and then Dune Messiah, and then it was only like a couple of years ago I thought, right, I'm going to read them all. Well, I think I stopped after God Emperor.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But it was one I was reading through, and I know you guys have told me a little more au fait with like Games Workshop stuff, but 40k,
yeah,
the lore from 40k is lifted straight from Dune. It's just like, wow, okay, I didn't realize how much that they've
well, the sidecar.
No, like all the kind of stuff about like it's loads of it, but like the golden path and like this one kind of being who can see through humanity's future and trying to guide them in like kind of this one direction, and like living multiple lives and having this prescient vision and stuff like that. And that's all worked into kind of 40k, and it's all drawn heavily from Dune. And my estimation of Dune kind of like went up so much because I was like, bloody hell, this inspired all this stuff, that I was like, the world building in that is amazing, and I can see this is the source of it.
I mean, there's a book to be written about the influences everywhere.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. R.R. Martin speaks about the influence it had on him for Game of Thrones. Although Tolkien didn't like it, did he? That was the story. Didn't like it very much. Yeah. For me, it was, I went to boarding school when I was 10. I was packed off to boarding school, and then one exeat. My dad was home from sea, and he got me the first Dune book. So this would have been 81, maybe something like that. Read it, loved it, didn't understand because you didn't understand that there were sequels, didn't understand that was it. And then in 84, the movie hit, and I'm like, it's amazing. I was still at boarding school. I went every weekend for 3 weeks to see it at the cinema. Was entranced by it, and then read the following four books from that point, and then the sixth book came out, I think, around that time. I remember hanging about in a bookshop, and they had a poster up for Chapter House, and I said cheekily, sort of got enough courage, and said to the man in the bookshop, what do you do with the book posters when they're finished with, And he said, oh, you can have it. And he took it down for me and gave it to me.
What a ledge.
Yeah, nice. And what a lovely bloke. And I had that in my bedroom wall as a kid in West London for years. I was all about it. There was one bloke in my class in my house at boarding school called Molster, his name was. I'll never forget. And me and him, I reread the first book, and me and him reread it at the same time. I remember I had the OG version, which almost looks like a Bedouin character on the front, like a close-up of the Bedouin character. And he had the movie version, which was the sort of landscape image on the front cover, like a photo. Yes, that's the one. Almost like a photo. There's one of the posters was that, I think. And he was reading along with that, and we talk about it all the time. And I loved it. It's been my favourite film for years. I don't think it's been beaten by the new ones, although I do appreciate them. I even appreciate the Sci-Fi Channel ones. But I went on to read more
out of him if you're a fan, I think.
Absolutely. Yeah. 100%.
So I read the first 6 books. Then there was a little bit of a break in time, and then I realised they did House Atreides, House Harkonnen, House Carino, which came out, and I read them through the early 2000s. I've been reading all the other books. I remember at the time, around the time I got the American comic size mini series at a Comic Mart for pennies, because it wasn't a hit, the movie, so the comics were selling. And then later on, I got which is Sienkiewicz. Ralph Macchio, he'd taken a break from Karate Kid. That's a joke. And Bill Sienkiewicz did the comic, which is a very, very like the movie. There's a little photo. It's Sienkiewicz realistic photo, really, but it's in Sienkiewicz style. So it's a beautiful read. And there's these pages with some great interpretations of the desert as like an opening page and stuff. And I bought that, but I was all about it. I bought there was a movie special, there was an album, there was a colouring book, there were action figures. It's just.
Why didn't they reprint that Sinkovich one with the first film, the new film coming out?
I don't know.
Like he's sitting on money there.
Yeah, the movie adaptation. The movie adaptation is very photorealistic in a very different way, isn't it? Yeah.
It's. I mean, it's a good read, and if you can find it, it's a good read, and it's good to go through. And there is that. There is something about that Lynch film, particularly, where it captures a certain thing about the book really well.
Yeah, he does. So for those who haven't read the book, they talk in the book, but you also get in italics what they're thinking.
Yes,
which something didn't translate into new movies, but Lynch gets that, doesn't he? Do you think? Tom?
Yeah.
I think he understands the importance of that.
Yeah,
because it's massively important.
And we could talk about the dinner scene for an hour.
Yeah.
Oh, if you go to Spotify, you can get Frank Herbert reading that extract of the book, which is the dinner party scene. And I mean, that's where I was going to go with this, because I think it's important. We're going to talk about the comics, and we've all read, loads of the comics and stuff. Boom are in the middle of putting out a lot of comics. So they have very much adopted the House Atreides 12-issue series, House Harkonnen 12-issue series, and House Carino has just started a 12-issue series, which are pretty good. I'm enjoying them.
Honestly, I was going to say, if there's a headline from the comics point of view, the Boom stuff's all right.
Yeah. I can take it what it is.
I think it adds to the world without being reductive.
Yeah, I think it doesn't.
So. The thing it reminds me of most, actually, and I hate to bring up so Star Wars did the High Republic series.
Yeah.
And the whole point of the High Republic series was it was a big multimedia event. So there was audiobooks, novels, comics, that kind of jazz. And they had a big team. I think Charles Soule,
yeah, and Cavan Scott's involved in it as well, yeah.
And they were the captains of the ship, right? They would make sure everything's in line, and all of it fed into each other. So you could read something, and be like, oh yeah, I see how that adds into this, and and that's what the Boom stuff feels like. Going through, and obviously we'll go through them properly, but yeah.
But for people who don't realise, they're written by Brian Herbert, who's Frank's son, who also wrote the biography of his dad, and from a lot of the stories and the short stories, and consequently the comics that follow on from them, are written from outlines and notes that they found in Frank's paperwork. So he writes them along with Kevin J. Anderson, who's a very prolific science fiction writer. He's written some novelizations of DC characters as well, a lot of stuff. So they write it along with a sort of revolving team of artists per miniseries. So we're gonna talk a little bit about the themes of the book, but we have concentrated on a couple of, or at least one of the comics, which is Blood of the Sardaukar, which we managed to read. Written by Brian Herbert and Kevin J. Anderson, illustrated by Adam Gorham. I think colours Patricio De Pesce, letters by Ed Dukeshire. I think Ed letters them all. We're back in the year 10-191 in the reign of Padishah Emperor Shaddam IV. So it's set at the Battle of Arrakis. For those that haven't read the book but seen the movie, that's the battle that takes place when the Atreides family have taken over Dune. Arrakis is the central city where their palace is, and everything goes to shit, and they're attacked by the Harkonnens, half of which the soldiers are actually the Emperor's Sardaukar in disguise. So that's the sort of setting for it. So it takes place within that first book.
Yeah, I think something to, especially for those who have only watched films, the Sardaukar are elite warriors.
Yeah,
they're the scary big bad. Do you know what I mean? They're almost you don't fuck around with the Emperor, because he'll send these tough as nails warriors to go fight, and that's something this
displayed as sort of almost like Knights Templar in the second movie.
Yeah. There's a lot of. I was going to say there's a lot of medieval imagery in Dune. You know what I mean? There's houses. It's a lot of all hand-to-hand combat.
Lords, Dukes.
Do you know what I mean? There's a lot of that kind of
Knights around table stuff.
Got Canley, which is basically kind of a blood
oath revenge.
Yeah.
And once set of rules, isn't it?
That, you can have so many rules for how you engage with one another.
Yeah.
Well, there's a separate miniseries, isn't it, called Waters of Canley, which focuses on where Gurney Halleck, who's the Patrick Stewart, who plays him in the new movie. I forget.
Josh Brolin.
Josh Brolin plays him in the new movie. Who goes off? There's a period where he goes with the smugglers before he meets Paul again. That is really interesting about the way he plays on themes and honors and stuff like that. But this comic tells the story of one of the Sardaukar who, like you say, Tom, are hard as nails, and he is a member of a minor house, House Colonna, which is a minor house in the Landsrat, which is the series of planets, but also families. So it's almost like a family-run system. And he wrongly blames House Atreides and Lord Paulus, which is Leto, the first father, for the attack on his homeworld. And his homeworld is destroyed, and him and two brothers are taken to Seleucus Secundus, aren't they, to train as Sardaukar. And that's brutal as fuck. There's one line in it. I'm not sure if you agree with me. There was one line that really hit home for me, where they dump the body of one of the brothers, and one of the soldiers on the planet goes, "We've used him up."
Yes.
He's dead,
yeah. If just as cycle back a little in the comic, before they go, there's a bit of flashback to his life before they get taken out.
Yeah.
And the son sort of accepts that he's going to be like a minor lord, or like an administrator, like a major administrator, something like that. And it just, again, it fed into that medieval imagery of like, I'm the third son, right? I'm not going to be the head of the house. I'm not going to. Do you know what I mean? It's like, one for the one to lead, one to go into the priesthood, one to go in that kind of. Is that sort of? And again, it's just is that kind of, it's that nice little world building. Like, actually, in this world, the first son probably would be.
But more through luck than anything, he's the one who survives.
Yeah, exactly.
They get basically, if you survive this planet, you'll be taken up to be a soldier, and they have to survive.
One thing they don't focus on in either of the films, that essentially, like, Seleucus Secundus has kind of parallels with Arrakis in the fact it's a fucking horrible environment, and if you survive it, it means you're fucking hard as nails. So you get chosen to go on to become a Sardaukar. So you've already got what it takes to be. It's like the kind of SEAL team fucking training, and you've made it through basic training, and then you go on to be a Sardaukar. So,
and I think that's where these comics, this particular one, I think the other ones that I've read as well, like they add to the world, they're additives to the world.
Yeah,
you could read this one on its own without knowing anything.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. 100%.
You could pick it up and away you go. It's weird. I didn't imagine Seleucus Secundus the way they've done it there.
Yeah,
I don't know what I imagined, but it wasn't kind of like.
I thought it was meant to be a wet, like Ekaz, the planet Ekaz. I thought it was meant to be this wet environment. I know.
I was also saying the kind of contrast of having Arrakis being dry desert and Seleucus Secundus being fucking raining and miserable all the time.
Yeah. That was my sort of take on it as well.
They play in that in the film, in the first.
Yeah, it's raining, isn't it? While they're there, throat singing. But you're right. He becomes instantly likable, even though he's just this ruthless fucking meathead murderer. He becomes, and I think that's one of the best fight scenes I've seen in comics. For that, when he fights the single Atreides officer, I really like that fight scene, and he manages to cut him, and he's like, "How dare he? How dare he get the first cut in?"
Yeah.
But the thing is, they can't use guns. I was thinking about, why don't they use guns? And the thing is, you can't use a gun because they're using shield technology, so it causes almost like a nuclear reaction if they shoot a gun and it hits a shield.
With the las guns,
so they revert to using blades and swords and machetes and stuff, like knives and crysknives and stuff like that.
So I think that's one of the reasons the Emperor kind of realized he has to move against House Atreides, is because they're getting their soldiers on par with the Sardaukar. They're only a small portion of them. I think they mentioned in the first book that between like Gurney Halleck and Duncan Idaho, they brought up a contingent that were actually fucking really good fighters.
Yeah, well,
they kind of sidestep in the film, didn't they, by saying they got the weirding units.
Yeah.
That's why he has to.
Which is an invention of that film, isn't it? Yeah.
Yes.
It's interesting if you read any of the novels. So there's a series of pre-novels. There's the House novels we mentioned. There's also 3 novels that take place during the year before they move to Arrakis.
Right.
That happens on Caladan. But in that and in the Pool, a couple of bridging novels, they talk a lot about sword masters. And Gurney comes across a number of other sword masters from other houses who he knows, and he has to fight, even though they were kind of his brothers coming up. There's a bit of it in the prequel comics as well, Tom. If you've read them, I think they go through a bit of that in House Harkonnen.
Oh, I haven't done House Harkonnen. I've done House Atreides, which I really enjoyed. By the way, I thought it was a really solid.
That's Gorham as well, isn't it? On the Iron.
Yes, I think it is. Let me just double check.
What ones is it when like you see Duncan Idaho before he's a swordmaster? Is it in this one, Blood of the Sardaukar? He one of them sees What do you call
Yes,
it?
he turns up.
Yeah.
He turns up at the Emperor's house, and he says he's about to go to be a swordsmaster. And in a couple of the other prequel comics, he's actually going through that.
Right. Okay.
Really well done. But the swordsmaster thing is like a massive thing. So what you've got like basically like the Bene Gesserit are all fucking lethal. The Mentats are all lethal. The swordsmasters are all lethal. It's basically superheroes. Yeah. I think to me, what Herbert does is there's no fucking aliens in this. No. People who think, it's all aliens. There's no aliens in Dune.
No.
There's humans. I'm right in saying that. Ixians are part robot. Is that right?
I think they're cybernetic. They've got kind of
like Prince Rombor like that, isn't
he? They're all genetically modified.
Yeah. But what he does is he takes humans almost to the next stage of evolution. So you've got stuff like the voice. You've got stuff like the way the Bene Gesserit can move at greater speeds.
Yeah.
You've got the computational uses of the Mentats. He takes every human through, like, I know it's slightly fucking 1940s Germany, but there's this breeding program, isn't there, that they go through in order to be like that. I think that's really interesting that he uses pretty much only humans. Even the guild navigators are
they've just been fucked
spices.
Yeah, they're taking loads and loads of spice.
Yeah.
I think I've read it or saw it that he was saying after reading like Asimov stuff, he was like, I don't want fucking robots or AI or anything. So he turned into that human computers and people evolving to become more than human, which is, man, like just making that one decision and coming up with all this is amazing. Yeah. What a great way of spinning off.
And there's a weird co-joining of science fiction and fantasy in this, isn't there? Because almost like biblical fantasy, because you've got the Messiah sort of story. It's fucking, in many ways you could view it as like pseudo Christianity, couldn't you? There's this Messiah who appears out the desert. It's like that sort of thing going on. But there's with them. It's hard to call it magic, but there's a fantasy element to it somewhere, isn't there? The worms are dragons, aren't they? Basically,
You're riding around, conquering the dragons, who are kind of the whole there be dragons, and you can't go into that area. Yeah, and they've kind of mastered these kind of creatures, which to anyone else is like fucking nuts. It's great. It's really the biz.
Cool.
What else was it? I was kind of just going to bring up a fucking point and it completely escaped me. I think back to Blood of the Sardaukar, the way it kind of factors in, doesn't it? Like this in particular Sardaukar soldier, where he feel like he's been aggrieved by House Atreides. Later on, Leto kind of makes an appearance before the Emperor and sort of says, we've got no claim on this house, like this planet.
He suddenly sees Leto, who's been his enemy, as doing the fucking right thing, doing the honourable thing, isn't he?
Yeah.
But it's such a nice bit in that where like he, it's almost like, fuck, I've completely got to change my tax on this. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I really like that, and that plays into one of the themes I was going to ask you about actually, because we're reading it in comics. It's been done. We've seen it in a number of mediums. We've seen it on TV. Movies. It's been a TV series. I don't know. See, I've first did a TV series. It's been movies. It's been comic books. It's been serialized comic books, and it's been novels as well. Now, how well do the comics? Because politics is a massive Machiavellian politics, especially is a massive part of the Dune saga. How do the comics do that? Do you think they do it well enough?
Well, the strength you've got in the medium is the fact that you've got the narration bubbles, and you can add in thought bubbles of what the characters are thinking, whereas obviously that's a bit more trickier in the film, easier in the books.
And also there's even in this Blood of the Sardaukar, that point you mentioned about like, he's drawn first blood, that's a thought bubble. And it's not like the classic cloud, big cloud. It's like a red thought bubble. Like
it's like his inner monologue in ways of kind of like how when things are playing out, he's kind of.
And I think that's such a big part of Dune in terms of like the layer beyond. Not just what's sitting up here, but it's also the layer above that and how that's interpreted and how that's manipulated as well by the thoughts and feelings. That it's just something comics do very well. And also there's a scale thing, right? In terms of you can have 100 sandworms riding into the desert.
Yes, yeah.
With 7, you know what I mean? And obviously it's a painted draw, but it's still a thing that can be produced.
Yeah.
And that's something whereas if you need to film that, or even if you want to animate it, it's a hell of a lot of work comparatively. which is something where, again, the comics really can shine through.
Yeah, there's a lovely set of because basically Dune is a series of different, almost like genres per planet. So, Khitan is this massive image of palaces, and then you got is it Wallach 4, which is the Bene Gesserit homeworld, which is this sort of gothic series of buildings and churches, like very dark, not ornate. And then you've got the brightness of Arrakis, you've got the rain of Caladan, and all the beautiful sea around it.
Mm-hmm.
It's a difficult thing to do in a movie, isn't it? But in the comics, the artists they've chosen pull off this almost in certain pages, almost like interpretational views of upshots of palaces and stuff like that. It's like beautifully done.
I think it's hard on an artist to kind of draw like this, because for me, like if someone said, "Right, you're going to draw a comic and it's like 10,000 years in the future," it's like, fucking hell, what are they going to be wearing? Like the uniform wise, like all the stuff you'd kind of associate would maybe like go out the window. It's a tough ask. Like architecture would be completely different.
It's a weird one. Dune does it because they do have a race of redheads, let's call them.
Yeah.
Then they like the Harkonnens have all got red hair. And I think that was one of the failings of one of the comics for me, is that it was beginning to be hard to tell who was who,
right?
Because they all had this sort of ginger hair thing going on.
Mm-hmm.
Did he ever think about that? Because I know, like, he's caught flack over because he made Baron Harkonnen like homosexual, and he did it as kind of a bit of a jibe at someone because he didn't like it.
Yeah, but was it his son?
Something, it might have been his son or someone, a relative of sorts. I was like, bloody hell, okay.
I didn't realise that. Okay.
But the depiction in the Lynch film goes like beyond that.
Yeah.
He's fucking horrible. I mean, in the books, he's horrible. Like the Harkonnens are bad, but
I actually find the actor who plays Baron Harkonnen in the Lynch movie to be much better.
Yeah, God, yeah.
I just think the actors in that are. Edgy is the wrong word, but there's something weird about everyone in that film.
There is,
yeah. That's what I like about it. Like,
me too.
It's so strange, and like every single word. But I wouldn't want to be hanging around with the Atreides, anyone really, because they're fucking strange as well. Everything's strange in that world. It's like, okay, that's a bit weird.
It's interesting because you talk about that the gay as something in the modern world we don't. And shouldn't see as a jibe of any kind. But there's that moment in, I think it's House Harkonnen, where, because Gaius Helena Mahayim had to sleep with the Baron, hasn't she, to produce the Kwisatz Haderach. And she introduces a poison into his blood system that makes him a beast. That's the reason he's a beast.
Yeah, that's in... I thought that was in... I finally saw that in House Atreides. Could be wrong.
You might be right. Yeah, you might be right, man. Yeah. And she says he gets the doctor in, doesn't he? Yui. He gets Yui in, doesn't he? He's a specially trained doctor. And he says this is a sexually transmitted disease from a woman. And he says, well, can't be.
Yeah.
He just says that, and he's like fucking no way. And he went, it was the Bene Gesserit.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, really interesting. Yeah.
Did either of you read Whisper of a Caladan Sea?
Loved it.
Oh. No, I didn't see that one.
I read it, and then I read the short story as well that it was based on, which I didn't really. When I texted you guys to say this is worth a look, I didn't realize it, but it is a short story, virtually word for word as well.
I did follow it up, and I've read the comic. That's beautiful, and again, it's that sort of like almost like a Star Trek episode in a bottle. Do you know what I mean? Like that sort of It's actually,
there's magical realism to it, I think. As well,
there really is, and like go on, man. Sorry.
I did jump on Amazon. I thought I'll get this, and it was like $12.99 for a paperback. So that's not going to turn up. And the Kindle was like £12. And so I'm not paying £12 for a digital comic.
It's on Global Comics.
I don't think it is. I did take a look. Maybe I wasn't.
It's
looking.
In the one that's the cider card trade. It's the second story in the cider trade. It doesn't get a title page, but if you scroll through it, keep scrolling through it. Tales of Arrakis. It's in.
Okay.
So, and the reason it is because it takes place during the Battle of Arrakis, and a load of soldiers go and hide up in a cave and get basically walled in through the constant battering of the artillery. And one of them is what's called a jongler, which is a storyteller. Another special skill that he has developed beyond. And that's,
I'd never even heard of jonglers as I read and the thing is, the thing with the books generally is there's so much stuff there, right?
Yeah.
Like, and I'm not a bad reader, I get most of the words right, and like sometimes, but you can't catch it all on the first read.
Yeah, you can't, man. No, you can't.
There's no, and like I'm sure I've read Dune, I don't know, half a dozen times, maybe close, and the sequels obviously less considerably.
Yeah.
I've never even heard of the word jongler.
Yeah, I couldn't remember it. But
I thought,
what it is a storyteller who
Yeah.
transports the people listening as if they're there.
Wow, okay.
Which is such an exaggeration on a storyteller. And one of the young officers is in pain. He's going to die, and he says, "Tell us a story again." And he tells a story about how, the spoilers by the way in this, tells a story about how he has a boat that catches fish, and because Caladan's a water planet, catches fish at sea, and they're obviously in this, got no water, they're about to die of thirst, and they're eventually discovered by the Imperial troops. Fremen. Fremen. Yeah. Fremen eventually find them, and they're soaking wet, and the actual story has sort of almost made them wet.
Yeah,
they've
drowned.
A very beautiful one-off story,
and And so I did a bit of reading online about other people's response to these, the blood of Sardaukar, whispers of Caladan Sea, and there's a lot of feelings like, are these needed? And I was like, no, they're good additions to the world.
They're not needed. You don't need them, do you?
No, but also the little stories. Do you know what I mean? The little stories, the little things, and that's where
that brings it round into the blood of the Sardaukar.
Yeah, sorry, just out of interest, you can find that in the Road to Dune book.
Great.
Which has also got some of the cut sequences from Messiah and Children of Dune.
Okay.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it's quite interesting. And a load of his letters to his publisher, which is great. Showing what a drama it was trying to get it fucking published.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Sorry, Dan, you're going to say.
So, in the end of Blood of the Sardaukar, it's the Battle of Arrakis, isn't it? And Paul and Jessica are blasting off in an ornithopter.
Yeah.
And the main character, who's the Sardaukar, he has like a kind of a shoulder-mounted rocket that he can take out the craft, and he knows, doesn't he, that there's someone important on that, and he purposely misses.
He makes a choice to miss.
Yeah. And they're like, "What? How'd you miss? Like, you never miss." And it was like, "Oh well,
Which is a really important story point that's seen from the other side, which is why I like it. I mean, Brian Herbert gets a lot of criticism for his writing, and if you read any of the previous novel, the sort of wider universe novels that he writes with his mate, they're not as well written.
No.
They're a little bit written to rote. You can 5 pages chapter, change to the next scene, 5 pages chapter. It's a bit like that. But I don't know, I'm just so into it that in the office, somebody was talking to me about having seen the movie, and I just went off on one. And then I had this moment of clarity and went, "Oh, sorry, I'm a bit addicted." Paul is such an interesting character, though. Paul is like one of the premier characters in literature where he is such a conflicted character.
Oh God, They don't touch on it in the second film.
Not enough, do they?
It's really interesting how you read Paul initially, you go like, "Oh, okay, he's doing what he needs to do," and then you think about it more and go, "Oh, maybe he's the bad. Maybe he's the bad guy." Yeah. But then you think more like, "Hold on, no, he's been bred into this. Like he's been molded from birth into this world, and he's reacting to the similar. He's reacting to what he's been given, and he's trying the best of what he's got." It's a really interesting.
I found a lot of his story feeling like I don't want him to let go of himself to fall into being this creature.
Yeah.
Because if people follow the books, he's a villain.
Yeah.
He's as bad as the emperor that came before him in some respects.
Yeah. He's
absolutely.
Well, him and his son, they basically like subjugate humanity, don't they? For their own, but they think that for the best, what they think,
the best possible option,
and it's arguable whether that is good or bad. But in the books, the original story compared to like the second film, at least, is that they ship out a lot of his kind of inner monologue to Chani of sort of saying you can't do X, Y, and Z because it's going to be bad. But he's originally trying to navigate the best possible option of a load of terrible ones. And at some point, he's like, if I die here, the jihad's going to go ahead anyway, and it's going to be crazy. I've got to stay alive just so it doesn't go bananas. And
even like, and it's a small thing. It's a big thing from the book, but his name, like all his visions he sees during the book, he's like one name for him has been shouted out. So when he gets a chance to make his own name, he chooses a different name.
Yeah,
and that still doesn't work. I mean,
but you realise that he's not the Walker of the Golden Path by the time you get to book 3.
No,
it's his son. Yeah,
because he gets born. He's the Kwisatz Haderach, but he's essentially born a generation early. So it's like, does that make his son the actual Kwisatz Haderach? Because he's
that's interesting. The Kwisatz Haderach subject, because it appears in the Boom prequel stories, because Fenring was bred to be, who was cut from the movie. You sent the thing through Dan today. So Count Fenring,
great actor as well. That guy.
Oh, is he? Right.
He played Buster Scruggs in the Ballad of Buster Scruggs. He's one of those things. He pops up in a lot of Coen Brothers films.
Oh, right.
Brilliant actor. It's a real shame that he wasn't in it.
Yeah. So he was like almost like the attempt before Paul.
Yeah.
There's also a great character called Prince Rombor, who's saved from when the Tilaxu take over Ix. He's like the royal family of Ix before, and he's saved he turns up again in Paul, the novel, the bridging novel between Dune and Messiah, and he becomes a cyborg. He's a really interesting character. Okay. Yeah. Just quickly before we forget about it, because I know we're talking about comic adaptions of the first book. There's also this, which is Abrams have brought out a 3 hardback series. I ordered 1 and 2 out of collectible disease, OCD collector disease, and I don't rate them. So I think I find them a little bit too, I don't know, they just seem a little, there's no edge to them. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I don't know. You can get
where does book 1 take you to?
I think book 1 has Jessica and Paul hit the desert.
Okay.
Yeah, so the natural break, which in many ways you can see, but there's 3 of them. They might be your cup of tea. I don't know. Yeah. It's not my cup of tea. But I would say probably the Sienkiewicz book would be my favourite, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The other thing I wanted to ask you about is Dune as Downton Abbey, right? Because it's not really, it's a class society, but we only really deal with the top echelons, don't we?
Yes, totally.
Yeah.
It's like these kind of the royal families, the privileged lot feuding. Yeah. You get to see that when that they can have pretty much water whenever they want. Yes. Everyone else on Arrakis is like got fuck all.
Yeah.
There's a bit when the dinner party where before they have the dinner party, they can dip their hands in a bowl of water and they drip it on the floor, and then that gets wiped up by rags. The squeezings of those rags can go to the beggars outside.
And it's seen as a positive, seen as like a big thing. Like, this is great. This is
great. Look how we're doing. This is great stuff.
Yeah.
It's like fucking hell.
There's a lot of play in the Boom comics talking about why haven't we got spice wine? And he said, well, no, because water's greater than wine.
Yeah.
On the planet. Yeah.
But
it just seemed to me like very sort of, once again, I know Pat always talks about this. We never see the regular soldier. This is a story of the prince of the royal family. It's like a Hallmark Channel movie in a way. It's always the prince. I
mean, weirdly, the closest out of the comics we've talked about is the Whisper of Caladan Sea, right?
Yeah,
because it's just 5 dudes in a cave.
Yeah.
5 dudes in a cave, and even one of them, as you said, is basically like a Superman. But
they may as well be in a trench in World War One in a way.
Yeah. It's like Blood of the Sardaukar. He's a 3rd son of a noble house, so he
becomes a general.
A general, right? So it's not even that story is not the common man, right?
Yeah.
I always feel sorry for like the Atreides troops. Like you're on Caladan, you're going to move all your family, move away from your family, everything you know, and live on this shithole planet, which the life expectancy is through the floor. And for what? It's like you said, if you're kind of focusing on the upstairs downstairs aspect of it, they get the rough old end of the deal there, and then the people who live on Arrakis are constantly being what's the word? Basically, you get like a thief, a duke that comes in and takes over, and it's like, well, who are you? Like,
it's massively imperialistic, isn't it?
Yes,
which I think.
It's fascistic in a way in certain elements, and
it's that kind of getting back to that medieval society, right?
Yeah,
we hear stories of King Arthur and Merlin and Knights of the Round Table, not Jan the apple seller.
Yeah.
Just an interesting enough fact: the unreleased Jodorowsky film.
Yeah,
who do you know, or who did you think they were going to get in to play Fayed Roof?
I know Paul was going to be his son, wasn't it?
Paul was going to be his son. Went through 2 years of intensive training with an Iranian,
didn't he? Yeah,
Iranian military. Yeah,
brilliant. I don't know.
Mick Jagger.
Oh, I thought I was about to say Paul McCartney. Oh, right. Okay.
Wow. Okay.
They're going to get Mick Jagger. That I would say
to play Fade.
To play Fade, yeah. That whole
that strings to getting Sting in, then, doesn't it?
Yeah. Very much so. They were going to have Orson Welles do Baron Harkonnen.
Oh, that would have been great.
Yeah,
that would have been great.
Salvador Dali was going to be the Emperor.
Okay.
He wanted
Dali.
He
Have you heard of that account of Dali, the first meeting he has with Jodorowsky, where he basically combed the pubic hair of a woman whilst discussing the money he wanted? It's this incredible thing. So the thing is, everyone goes on about the Jodorowsky movie, and you're right, Tom. You and I have both read and seen Jodorowsky. I don't know if you have done, but I've read a couple of his books he's written. I've never read that. I find him a very dubious individual. He's slightly too obsessed with young people.
Yes,
and everyone goes on about, wouldn't it have been amazing? And the fact and the truth of the matter is, it would never have got made.
No.
Even if he'd found finance, they'd have never made it.
No. It just wouldn't have happened.
Yeah.
Anything. This is the best case scenario because, like, they produced a great a treatment for it in the book, and the story of it's almost greater than the actual film itself.
And the designs of people they got in for it,
the idea of it can be like the ghost of what it could be is like beyond reproach.
Yeah. Absolutely, yeah.
Is the book going to come out? Do we know what the story is? Because it's the book of designs, isn't there? That was there like 4 copies of it or something? And
do you remember that shit about the investment bros? When did we talk about this? We brought that up
a few years back, frankly.
Yeah, they said they were going to make like Bitcoin kind of things out of each page, and it's like
NFTs,
NFTs, and there was like you don't actually own this though. You own a copy of the book. You don't have the rights to make these tokens out of it, which is what a strange episode that was. Imagine explaining that to someone 10 years ago. You'd be like, what?
Yeah, you own a receipt for a thing that you don't really quite, and you.
Yeah.
Bizarre.
One of the other things I wanted to discuss is how well the comics carry on the religion. The religion's a massive part of it, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's central to everything. Everyone understands in the world has this Muad'Dib kind of thing going on. But do the comics communicate the religion? It doesn't really come up in Sardaukar, does it? It's like an honor thing.
Honestly, the ones I've read, no.
Right.
No, and like also I think there's because obviously the Muad'Dib religion is quite big on Arrakis.
Yeah.
If you think about across the other planets, like almost the Bene Gesserit are religious order in their own way.
Yeah.
The Mentats religious order, in the Sword Masters. And that's brought up in the same way that you would bring up almost like, oh, my mate here's a really good plumber. Do you know what I mean? It's not. It's. I don't know. I think it's hard to get. Maybe it's they haven't got it across as well. Put it that way.
It's interesting in the book where you get people kind of going on about the white savior crap, and it's like no, because all these myths and stuff have been placed on Arrakis by the Bene Gesserit, the Mission Protectiva, and they obviously do this in loads of worlds. It's kind of like a backdoor or parachute for any Bene Gesserit who got kind of stranded. And it starts off with kind of like Paul being quite reproachful that they've done this and they've had to use it. And then it goes on to sort of like, well, I'm going to use this for my own end. And at the end, he's like, no, actually, that's me. I am the fucking... wholly believing he is what he kind of was scorning in the beginning bit, and he's using all this kind of religious stuff for his own ends, and then he believes his own fucking hype. Which again factors into the whole... I don't know why you need to be pointed out that this guy isn't on the up and up.
Yeah, it's no great revelation. Right? There's an interesting almost like masculine feminine with the Bene Gesserit and the Mentats.
Yeah.
In terms of you've got like
monks and nuns, basically, isn't it? Yeah.
And this isn't a particularly deep thought, right? It's not. We're not breaking any new ground here, but like it is interesting to see how Frank Herbert thinks about like those gender roles in terms of all the Bene Gesserit women, and they have the voice, they're very manipulative, their manipulations over time and that kind of jazz. Whereas, it's the cool, hard, logical men. It's But
that's a weird one. I mean, there's all kinds of parallels you can make around it. Especially I know we joked earlier about the voice. The women have the voice to make men do things. This sort of thing, and where that parallels against each other because they use sex as violent. They use sex as controlling.
Yeah,
absolutely. The Bene Gesserit.
Yeah.
Paul refers to himself as the fulcrum between the two. He's got the two kind of. He's a mentor and he's got Bene Gesserit abilities, and it's interesting. Let's try and go back onto the comics.
Yes,
we're torching
all over the place, aren't we?
The other one I'd recommend is The Waters of Canley, which is the Gurney Halleck story. So for those who read the book, what happens is Gurney Halleck during the Battle of Arrakeen is separated from the rest of I think they've got like 90 soldiers or something. He escapes with. They join up with the smugglers, the spy smugglers who are associated with Count Fenring, and it's basically a heist series. Is it 4 issues? I think. And it's a heist story, isn't it? It's where they try to steal the new water delivery for the Harkonnen troops on the way there, and it doesn't quite go right. What did you think of the depiction of Halleck, Dan?
I don't know. I wasn't sure about it. I really wasn't sure about it. I've got to a point where a couple of years ago, if an adaptation or something or added to a universe where I didn't like it, I'd be like, oh God, this isn't right. But now I can kind of take a core thing that I like and separate all the kind of the wheat from the chaff, and it's like, okay, that's what it is. I can't do anything about it. And there's times when I saw him in that and I was like, don't really see him like that, but whatever. I can kind of like just deal with it and move on with it. I mean, when you see the stuff about his backstory, it's like, fucking hell.
His age sort of wavers in and out a bit for me.
Yeah.
He doesn't feel old enough in Waters of Kenley.
No, he's kind of a bit more of a young hero protagonist as opposed to the kind of the grizzled old, I've been in more fights than you've had hot dinners kind of guy.
And there's one moment where, and I know this, he's playing the balisette, and one of the smugglers takes it off him and smashes it, and he says, I'd kill you another time for that. And I thought, no, you'd kill him there and then.
You'd kill him now.
Yeah. I mean, he's described in the book as an ugly lump of a man.
Yeah. They get the scar right, don't they? They
do get
the
but that to me implies like someone who's just really fucked up, really messed up.
His sister was sold as a prostitute, and they have sex with her in front of him, and it's just awful life. Which it goes a bit in on the Raban thing with him. That's perhaps a good thing. But to me, it was almost an excuse to do a heist story.
Yeah,
I said it within there.
I always thought kind of Gurney would just be ended up on like Dune, just living this fucking miserable existence of scraping along as a smuggler until he comes across Paul once again.
And I think that's personally, he's like he did right by his people, got them out, and then he's just trying to not make amends, but just trying to get by, right?
Just kind of like almost not like a living death, but just kind of keeping your head down and doing the 9 to 5 and just.
There's three actors have played him, haven't they? So you got Josh Brolin, you got Patrick Stewart, and then have you seen the Sci-Fi Channel series? There's that dude from Lock, Stock.
It's Hatchet Harry.
Hatchet Harry, who's shit at acting. He just comes across as an East End Cockney fucking thug.
Because then you young pup or something like that. And it's like, mate, what? It's fucking...
There's a bit where he's talking to the actress who plays Lady Jessica, whose name I forget now, but she was the one who played the Borg Queen in First Contact, who's like this sort of incredible Shakespearean actress who's got this lovely turn of phrase, and she keeps looking at him and he keeps saying, "Yes, Your Highness." It's like terrible.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Don't they end up together?
They end up on Caladan together, don't they? In fact, the whole of Messiah, he's not in it. He comes back in Children, June, doesn't he? Yeah,
that never sat well with me because it was like, why would you do that? It's just, I just couldn't see it happening. But
I think there is. I think there is space in Dune and the comics to tell a heist story.
Yeah, I think
maybe,
so. Yeah,
but maybe not with those characters.
Yeah,
in the same way there is in Star Wars and Star Trek, and there's all these sort of things. Yeah. It's actually grown to be that sort of thing now, Dune, isn't it? I think.
And the thing is, and it kind of has to survive because you can't keep telling the same story over and over. You can't keep telling the hero's journey over and over.
Brian tries to be fair. Brian keeps doing that. Yeah,
you need the other bits pushing out and stuff, and you can have 3 new characters who maybe they're Harkonnen soldiers who go rogue. Tell a story about those guys and they can do it. That kind of...
Which is where Blood of Sardaukar I found so refreshing. Yeah. This single story about this dude, and you end up fucking really liking it.
Yeah,
he becomes a really good guy.
And in the book film, he's just a guy who looks a bit annoyed at the Baron for a second.
Yeah,
And I know there's an element of you can read that both ways. It could be like, oh, this is just some guy who had 2 seconds of screen time. And they're making a story on him, but it's also no, it's just also an open book you can mess around with and change with.
Yeah, I agree.
I'd love to see if he was going to kind of pick out a Dune character or setting or place. I'd like to hear more stories about.
See a comic of, yeah.
I mean, for me, it'd be oh god, I'm going to get the name wrong. Fucking hell. The Mentats who stays behind.
Fufit,
yeah.
Like his 9 months to 2 years on Arrakis under the Harkonnens, right?
he's Mentat assassin. He's going to be like an absolute.
Yeah, they're incredible. Yeah.
What did he do during that time? How did he sort of square that circle of like working with them and that kind of like seeing him being built down over worked down over time? That's
Yeah, I think I'd go stories of the Swordmasters, who I mean, in a way, Jedi. There's this character who's referred to in the notes of Frank called Blood, who turns out is the bloke who designed the Royal Palace for Paul. And spoilers, but in one of the Brian Herbert books, he's the swordsmaster, an old swordsmaster who's trained with Duncan. He's like this, almost like a legend on their planet. And he says, right, put it on me. I'm going to design the fucking palace for you. I'm your swordsmaster now. You saved me from this life. I'm going to design the palace. And for 600 pages of this novel, he designs this palace. Spoilers, by the way. And then we find out that he's actually done it just so he can kill Paul. But he's not because he's done it to kill Paul because he's siding with anyone. It's just because he says, I wanted to save you when the bombs went off and be seen as a hero. And it's this fucking great story. And he became my favourite character.
Wow, okay.
Yeah.
I think there's so much like in the universe. Honestly, if someone came to me and said, you write a story set in the Dune universe, but don't have it playing into the main story at all, I'd really struggle. Because Dune for me is defined so much by that main story. What story do they tell that doesn't factor into that?
I mean, do you take on the smaller houses? Do you just, do you make up a house that hasn't been talked about and say, okay, this is house?
Yeah. There's a couple of houses that are referenced in the first book that are minor houses of the Landsred. You could easily just pick one. Yeah.
But I guess you just picked one and they like you did their kind of day-to-day life or them dealing with something. It's like, is there enough meat on that bone to kind of tell a story like that? I don't know. I think maybe if a more skilled writer would be able to pull it off.
You say, we don't have to jigsaw everything into the events of something, Yeah, I think you're right. I do think, in a way, the books never get better than the first novel.
No.
So I think that's why people choose it. I love the next two books very much. I find the second trilogy a little bit slower and harder going.
I really enjoyed God Emperor, and I thought the kind of the thought was, God Emperor is really decent. But when I was kind of looking around the past couple of weeks, I was like, that isn't particularly well regarded, and I was like, oh, okay, fair enough.
There was massive gaps between books coming out. I don't think Chapter House came out till 85, 86, something like that. When you think the first one was being written in the early 60s.
I can't remember much about Chapter House or Heretics.
Yeah, well, Chapter House is the new planet, isn't it? It's like The other thing I thought was mentioning, I know we're sort of timing up now almost, but the other thing I think is worth mentioning is the covers of the Boom series.
Oh, mate, they're lovely. Yeah, they're really good stuff.
Jay Lee does the first issue cover of House Atreides, and I think it's genuinely one of the most iconic pieces of. You
bought me that as a trade, and it's
did
fantastic.
I? Okay, yeah. Yeah, I really like that, man. I think that the way the sort of, it's almost like it's a coat of arms.
Yes,
with the two worms on either side.
It's really good. It's really good. I think there's one thing to take from this chat. It's obviously like the books are incredible. The books are well worth reading.
Yeah.
And if you have struggled with books, going back to the beginning where I mentioned the YouTuber Comic Book Girl 19.
Yeah.
She does a great series where you read along with her.
Yeah.
So she'll do like 70 pages and then she'll do like a whole thing explaining bits of the chapter and stuff. And she's got more of a mystic bent on it, should we say. Do you know what I mean? Like a mystic spiritualism side of things. And from a reading experience point of view, it was well worth checking out, frankly. I really enjoyed that kind of like reading the book and be like, okay, well, let's see what she focused on in here and like talking about the Orange Catholic Bible and what this bit means and what spiritualism bits, like the woman, the Crowe, like the Shep's maps, for example. And what her role is and how she fits into the whole thing.
Shout out Mapes. Yeah, apologies.
Yeah, just really interesting. I would, if you're struggling with a book, that's not a bad way to do it.
Okay. Yeah.
It's also, you're doing it in chunks. You do 70 pages.
Yeah.
Then watch a video about it and be like, okay, this.
I mean, the options people have got now. You can read the book. You can listen to an Audible version of it. There's a couple of different versions, I think, out there. Mm-hmm. You can read at least 3 versions of a comic that tell the first book now. Mm-hmm. You've got the movie adaptation, you've got the Abrams book, and you've got the Sienkiewicz book, the Maciej Sienkiewicz book. You've got prequel comics. You've got a TV series. When I read it, I read Dune without anything visually,
just the book.
Visually disturbing my own image of what went on, and it was very different to how Lynch's version turned out. Mine was much more Bedouin based.
Yes,
yeah. And you got to remember when he was writing this, Lawrence of Arabia had just come out. So he says that was an influence on him as well.
Yeah, makes sense.
Which is a white savior thing again.
But also, like, and I hope you don't want to bring it up. That design, the design you just sent us earlier this evening.
Oh, Trackenoff.
Yeah, that's great.
Brilliant. What
lovely stuff.
What a great design.
Oh, mate, I jumped on that.
Yeah,
the ornithopter design in that.
Yeah,
he does two versions of Paul. He does Muad'Dib and he does Paul, doesn't he? Which is interesting. Yeah,
beautiful. It's like every single one I want looks like an A5 postcard.
Yeah,
do you know what I mean? I can just like quietly go from my own time.
I always see Paul as Carl McLaughlin now. It's just like that's.
Yeah, I think the kid did Timothy Chalamet, his name is. I think he did a good job.
Yeah, same. Yeah,
I actually liked him in that. I warmed to him. I remember you and I, Dan, we had a conversation. I said, I'm not sure he's going to be realistic enough when he throws a punch.
Yeah,
but and I didn't find his first fight. I found it a bit cringe when he fights Jameis. But after that, he convinced me, had me over. And I think most people in it are pretty good.
Yeah.
But like you say, I still see Picard as Halleck.
Yeah.
You know,
with a battle pug.
Yeah, and the long hair at the back.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
God.
Yeah.
That's,
good stuff.
Yeah.
All right, guys. There you go.
I feel like we could have fucking gone on and on.
Yeah, could have easily kept going, frankly.
Yeah.
Easily kept going.
I've been on the Spice one as we've been talking. I've been getting prescient visions. I've got a feeling we're going to bring in up a possible future where we talk about Matera Scalera and make menstruation jokes. But I'm trying to work towards that future. So
you can see the path ahead of you.
Yeah. I'm trying to alter lines and where we're talking to engineer in that situation. We get there. So we'll see how that plays out.
See how it plays out.
Wow. Just
you're back.
Wow. Yeah. I hope you enjoyed yourself.
The deep desert. No, we went into the desert. Vince
you went into the desert. I stayed in the desert.
He was back in Khitan.
I had a cup of tea and a biscuit.
Yeah.
He's a member of the court on Khitan, isn't he? He's
look, you've had your moment. You've had your
moment. Finger out, drink a cup of tea.
Look.
We're just excited, Vince.
I know you're excited. Yeah. And rightfully so. Whenever anything comes out that you're a fan of, it's good to be excited about it.
Yeah.
So more
and that My Little Pony movie's out pretty soon for you, isn't it, Vince?
Oh, fucking get it!
What movie?
The My Little Pony one.
Friendship is magic, Tony. Yeah,
Friendship is magic.
Yeah.
Read Hercules 2. That's my love of My Little Ponies.
Yeah. That's how I got into it. Anyway,
why did he get boned by a robot penis? What was I thinking? I literally went, I hate My Little Pony. I'm going to have one being boned by a robot.
Yeah. Highbrow, Eisner Award winning, surely.
That's what it said in the script. I told you that, didn't I? In the script, I wrote when I had the fucking My Little Pony do a massive shit on someone and kill him. I wrote in the script, this is where we win our Eisner FLP. It was a rainbow shit as well.
Well, that's all right. But as you can tell, it's back to normal now. It's back to the normal show, and
say normal.
As such, it's time for some shout-outs. Who has some shout-outs, gents?
I've got a few. So first, the big one, the biggie. Congratulations to our brother Nick Prolix for the birth of the
well done, Nick.
He sent me the picture the other day. Thanks to everyone who sent me comics this week. I've got like a bit of a backlog of reviews to do, so don't worry if you're not getting it this week. It's definitely coming. But I've got some absolute crackers through in the last 2 weeks. Some brilliant comics. Infinite Wheatpaste Volume 1, Catalytic Conversions is on Kickstarter. It's also fully complete, and they've had if you follow the Avery Hill social media, you see that they've had a test print done of it, so it's all ready to go. It's a universe-spanning sci-fi adventure from L. Pidge. That's the name, L Pidge. Could do with some help, actually. It's got about 10 days to go as we record. But yeah, if you're listening to this on the week of release, give it a shout. Thanks to Finn Moxon, Slack member, for sending us his new graphic novel, Late Nights, Streetlights. I'm about a third of the way in. I'm really enjoying it, actually. Really good. I forwarded it to you guys, didn't I? Think. Tom, if I haven't sent it to you, I will.
Thank you.
Thanks also to Paul Ashley Brown for his comics care package and a brilliant letter. And you got to love people. I love you artist people because you're always so exacting in the way. Even it came in a big envelope and folded around the envelope was another bit of card to protect the comics. And he'd drawn Judge Dredd on it.
Oh, that's
brilliant.
awesome.
Oh, that's
It's like having a bit of original art as part of the envelope, you know? Marvellous. So thanks to him. Go to paulashleybrowart.com. That'll be getting a shout from me next week, I guess, as well. So, there, Marvins.
Nice. Dan, what have we got?
I've got a couple of Kickstarters. First one being Boston Metaphysical Society Volume 1 Special Edition hardback. Ex-Pinkerton detective, a spiritual photographer, and a genius scientist battle supernatural forces in 1800s Boston. And that's by our friend Madeline Holly Rosing. That's kickstarting now. You've got another couple of weeks on that one. Do go check that one out. We've got Steamroller Man by Matthew Schofield. That's still an upcoming project. Hopefully going to get Matthew onto the show and speak to him about it because such a great comic. You can read it on Global Comics. I'd recommend that. And one last thing, Cliff Cumber shouted this out on the Slack, and it's really worth checking out. On the Internet Archive, they've got the entirety of the Starblazer magazine scanned and uploaded, and they're all on there, and they're fucking great. It's really good. There's a couple on there that are like game books. So it's kind of like you read a comic, and it says, if you choose jump left, go to this panel. If you choose jump right, go to that panel. And usually it's like, you choose the wrong one, you're dead. And there's no way of knowing it. It's like you hit left or right, you choose right, and you're dead. And there's no clues for that. But go check them out. I think it's one called Axel the Avenger. Which
early, if you go do a bit of research when you read them, there's a couple in there written by early Grant Morrison.
Okay,
nice.
Yeah.
Why'd they strip out the names again? What was that?
I think that was just their way. I think. Yeah.
Okay. They wouldn't fly nowadays. If fucking the Twitter arty would be right off.
Yeah, you don't put the flatter on the cover. You're getting the shit these days, ain't you?
That's me.
Oh, the other thing we've got to mention is this. I know we're going to do it in the shout
Yes, yeah.
So I got No Second Chance, but from Zach Cahill and Lee Bennett. And as I was reading it, I was sending you guys images of it because it's funny as fuck. And an amazing, brilliant cover as well. Is it American Ninja 2? He said he got a bit.
Yeah, he posted a picture up from it. Yeah, he took a reference from it.
Yeah, really good. And I was happily sending you pictures. And then Tom went, Tony, we know we're in this comic. And I went, oh, fuck, I didn't realise. And you're on the back page. You two have done an advert.
Yeah.
So how did that come about, guys?
Zach needed I think he broke his hand. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. Of course it is, yeah.
And he needed some pages. So I said, he saw the advert that I'd done, the mock advert in Viper. I said, yeah, Tom helped me out with that. And then we joined forces and did one for his comic.
So you've done like the top image, Dan, I guess. I'm just showing it to them. The top image is a man firing a gun. Which is
I did that on the fan art February. So Zach put his character in there, and I just repurposed the artwork. Tom did the game capture screens along the central part of the page, which are fucking awesome.
Oh, thank you very much.
Yeah. And
the main character is called Tempest. Am I right in saying that?
Yes.
That's the character, isn't it?
Chance Tempest, isn't it?
Oh, right, okay. So it's set in 1980 in a time when action movies had a literal cocaine budget, which is quite fun. Slightly smaller than US comic size, black and white interiors. Tells the story of Maverick cop who's suspended called Tempest. He's brought back on track because there's a new drug being brought in, and he gets a partner called Cynthia McLean, who's clearly Cynthia Rothrock, isn't she?
Yeah.
I'm going to say like an homage to Cynthia Rothrock.
Got that vibe.
Brilliant.
Yeah, 100%.
And it just goes fucking mental. I absolutely loved it. I was chuckling along. You can tell when I love stuff because I send it to you guys.
Yeah. You didn't even send the panel I thought you'd send to us.
Yeah, there's a lot of lively panels.
Yeah, there's one there. I was like, oh, that's a tiny panel, right? Those balls have gone in the hole quite easily.
And do you have what it takes quiz in the middle as well?
Ah, brilliant.
Oh, yeah, nice.
Yeah, which is pretty cool.
Very cool.
Good. So go and get that. It is really good. No Second Chance. You got the website, guys?
I don't know.
It's okay. It'll be in the show notes.
It'll be in the show notes, and Zach Cahill's on the Slack. I know a lot of people have bought it on the Slack, actually.
Yeah.
So go and get it. There you go.
Have you done one? You got yours, Tom? You done yours?
Mine is. So I haven't got a shout out
Oh, okay.
No.
Can I give
Tom,
one last
Tom
thing?
does have something for us.
I do have something
Afterwards. Yeah.
Just to cap it off, we've kind of reached the end of March of the Mutants, where we did a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles draw off over March, and they've been fucking brilliant. So good.
Yeah, they have been. Haven't they?
It's been really good. It's been lovely.
Yeah.
Usagi was
Really good.
fantastic. It was really good.
If you cheers, thank you. I think that was probably the best one I did of that, because like I don't think I've ever really drawn Usagi before, and it was like,
I got super excited when it was Usagi Day. I thought, fucking hell, this is going to be
lots of
great.
great stuff.
It was brilliant.
Yeah.
It was really good. Yeah.
So you can check out hashtag March of the Mutants on Instagram and Twitter, that pop up, or go on the Slack, and it's all on the Draw Off channel.
Nice. What's the next one going to be? Do we know yet?
They're talking about doing an apes one, but I'm not too keen on drawing apes.
Well, I suppose you've only got 5 hours to go, so it'd be fine.
Yeah, it's nothing like leaving it to the last minute. I mean,
I like having the cameras on. I like watching Dan talk.
thank you.
I find him very engaging.
I just like watching Dan sleep. Anyway, it's all right, Dan. You don't know I'm there. As we said, Tom, as he's here, he came with a packed lunch.
Yeah.
Ready to talk some Dune, and he also came with something a little bit extra. Tom,
I did, yeah. Well, so I know that you generally keep the guest secret, but I did let a few people know, and they sent in some letters for everyone. So eyes down, pens up. Your letters are B U M H E A D and S. So we've got 30 seconds on the clock.
Oh, I didn't write it down.
Was it BUM?
HEADS. Got 30 seconds on the clock. HEADS.
Okay.
It's 30 seconds on the clock. If you can put some sort of countdown S music in here, Vince, and off we go.
I mean, we've essentially got
I'm all for this.
Fill a bit of this time, haven't we? I mean, I love those letters anyway, because it's just I've just read them out and it's just made me laugh.
I got 5.
You got 5. Okay, hold on. We've got 10 seconds to go.
I've got 5.
Got 5.
Oh God.
Oh,
hang on.
Oh
no! Hang on, this is shit.
Time up.
And we're time up. And so, Tony, can we hear your 5, please?
Beads.
Beads, lovely. Lovely beads, nice.
Yeah, love beads.
Dan, your 5.
I went for meads.
Meads, very nice.
Yeah.
And Vince.
Tagging into my alcoholism there. Not alcoholism.
Head.
That's part of the thing.
It's not my fault.
Unfortunately, if we head to Dictionary Corner, we could have had ambushed.
No.
Like we were with this question.
That joke stolen from a Stephen Fry sketch. I'm like,
amazing.
There you go. Apologies, that was all.
Nice one, Tom.
That was well worth it.
That's good.
Do you know what?
I thought we was going to get some hate mail then.
That's the sort of thing keeps your grey matter going. When you're as old as I, you need to do shit like that.
Yeah. But the thing is, I just kept reading bumheads.
Same.
And
like
if it's just
is that not a word?
It's not one. Well, it's 2 words, Tony.
Bumheads. Yeah,
it's not one word.
Yeah. Bumheads. If it was the name of a band, it'd be a noun, wouldn't it? But I don't think it is.
And you probably have to call yourself the Bumheads.
Yeah, you probably would. But there you go. Apologies. Sorry.
Totally worth it.
But
made me laugh.
How many of you out there got the answer? We won't know, and if you do say it, you're probably lying.
We won't know nor care.
Leave it. Because if you review for the podcast,
if you bring it up to us, we've probably forgotten what we were doing.
Yeah.
So,
oh yeah, nice.
Yeah.
So I got that anagram.
What? Why didn't they say hello first?
Oh fuck, it's you. I got that anagram. That's going to be how it is.
Yeah.
Look, I've just given a way to weed people out. That's all.
Oh, yeah.
No more do they need to talk about Punisher. They can now talk about bumheads. And
Yeah.
We've got the Punisher in again.
Yeah.
The Punisher.
A little shout for one of our favourite listeners. Fucking Punisher, what a pile of shit.
Latest Punisher is shit.
Yeah.
Every time we mention Punisher, he went, "Nice one, lads. Slagging off Punisher again."
Although there may be we might have to put a lid on it. I know it's our passion.
Yeah.
But
I've just spent an hour talking about Dune. What are you talking about?
It's kind of petering out, isn't it? The Punisher, shitting on the Punisher.
Because we've got the new one coming soon.
Yeah.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, the
Cool.
Nick Fury Punisher on him, which we
Yeah.
adverts in
But
Marvel.
that's going to be a
this week.
fucking high bar.
Yeah. That's certainly going to be something to recommend. Speaking of which.
Oh, yeah.
Where are you going with that?
Oh.
Speaking of which, I think as well as that, we should recommend some other books to you lovely people.
I think that's a good idea,
Do you think that's a good idea?
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, lovely idea.
Lovely. And Tom, what would you like to recommend?
Yes. Oh, I've got 2 recommends. I'll do them both at the same time, if that's okay.
Yeah.
What, in stereo? How are we
in
gonna
stereo? Yeah.
So it's going to be amazing.
The first is another podcast, which I know is sacrilegious to go onto a podcast. And
Oh,
recommend
no,
another
no,
one.
I can't hear him. I can't hear him.
But there's a podcast that I got recommended from an artist called Jim Will Paint It, and he recommended the one called The Evolution of Horror.
Not a great name, is it? Jim Will Paint It.
He's
Is that an old name?
No, that went from for like nothing to massive, didn't it?
He's very big. He's pretty.
Oh,
big.
is he?
Yeah.
Does he know? He's English guy, is he?
It might have happened before.
Is he the
it
one
might
that
happen
puts like,
before it went
like
off.
collages of like Phil Mitchell and stuff? Is he the one that?
No,
puts
isn't that Cold War Steve? That's Cold War
Cold
Steve.
War Steve.
All right.
He used to say people would say like draw.
This sounds like an insane conversation.
Yeah,
This is very UK based, but Jim Will Paint It was like people would come up with like draw the Chuckle Brothers like driving a Ferrari or something, and he would do it. But I think this was pre
Jim will fix it. Yeah.
Pre Savile came out. Like, all.
Anyway, he recommended.
Made his bed, didn't he?
He recommended this podcast called The Evolution of Horror, and effectively it's done by a chap called Mike Muncher, and what he does is he takes different subgenres of horror and then starts from their sort of like initial the first film in that subgenre, and then all the way through to modern day. So the first one is about slasher, which starts with Psycho and Peeping Tom, and then he does it with it's almost like a book reading club at the same time. And yeah, it's just really good. It's a really good.
You watch along with the film, or you watch film, then you go to the podcast.
Yeah, watch film, go to the podcast after.
Okay.
Just really enjoy it. Really enjoy it. It's really solid.
What was the dude's name again?
It's Mike. It's Mike M. Tony.
Mike M.
Mike M. Tony. Yeah.
I don't know why that set me off.
Yeah.
You were saying about the
he was
design.
going red in the face on the Zoom call.
The design on the site is
beautiful.
like been
Yeah.
It's really good, and like the idea of just diving into these films and really sort of like focusing on it. Really
and there's a comics connection because Mike Lee Graham, the amazing comic artist,
guest,
has done a lot of redesigns for it and their new merch and stuff, which looks fucking awesome. He's such a good artist and designer.
Don't know if you get this, Vince, but like on my Instagram, sometimes I get stuff coming up for like Adobe Illustrator and Photoshop, and you got these people saying, "Are you doing this? Try doing this." And it makes me feel like I know absolutely fucking nothing about my job.
Like, look, stop wasting all this time doing this when you could just press 2 buttons and do this. And I just think, I'm completely obsolete.
It's always skills that I thought, that looks great, but I've never ever use it in anything I ever do professionally. So
I don't even know what Adobe is.
Yeah. It's a type of clay.
Oh.
There you go.
Nice.
There you go. And a company rips you off.
Bends you over.
Dan's
Is Mike Muncher involved in that?
There's some laser sights currently on Dan's head right now.
Just got to keep moving for the rest of the episode.
But who didn't rip me off was Dan. He got me a lovely present, which is my second recommend. The Ambassadors by Mark Millar and like a range of artists. And I'm sure I know you guys have talked about this before. Obviously Big Game was a big deal last year. And got given this copy of the Ambassadors from Dan, went for it. There you go. Both got copies.
Got my copy here.
And it's just really great. Just genuinely really good. And like the idea of having like a different artist for each issue, it kind of obviously it could be quite jarring, but actually it works really well because you're focusing on a different member of the team every time.
Let me just ask, who's your favourite in that?
Oh, it's Quietly.
Quietly, yeah.
It's Quietly every time. It wasn't even because it just Quietly. I just thought it was the best.
Did first issue, didn't he? As I recall.
Yeah, he did the first issue, and it's just great. Just really solid work, Frank. I know that's kind of a cop-out answer, and I'd love to say
fine.
No, it was
him and Miller work so well together. I like them.
They really do.
Yeah,
but also I just liked the team dynamic was really good. It's a simple concept of like actually you can see how this builds. He can do as much or as little of that as he wants, right? He can keep those core 6. He can kill them off, put them more in. You know what I mean? Like there's loads of stuff you can do there. Great. Really good.
Nick Batara, is it, who did Axel John? He did like a snapshot where Frank Quietly's drawn the main character out of Axel John. So, and since he's a massive influence on him, he was this is fucking amazing, this piece of art. So I'm looking forward to seeing when.
Love Nick. Nick's great.
Piece. Yeah.
He talked a lot about Frank on the show, didn't he? When he came on. Yeah.
Mate, imagine that having like your art hero is this one artist, and you love everything you do, and then they're drawing your character. It's fucking great.
Yeah.
And I think that's the thing with like Big Game was there were so many things introduced. You could just pick bits of it and be like, actually, I really want to read. What was it? Nightbite. Fucking hell, that was it.
Nightclub.
Bite Club. Yeah, like you could go through Bite Club, or you could go through the magician ones, or Kick-Ass.
Magic Order, man, fucking great.
That's the one I need to get on because
I've got that here. I've yet to read it.
That's the one.
4 or 5 volumes now.
Out of the series, and because obviously we talked about how much we like the series, as Tom said, but I knew I knew a couple of the series. But there was lots of them because there's so many different broad sort of flavors, aren't they, to the Millar books that you can, I'm not really into secret agent books, so but here's a Superman style book. Do you know what I mean? There's all these kind of things. The Magic Order was one that was like it just popped up and it just passed me by. I wasn't too sure about it, but when I finished Big Game, I was like, I really like these characters. Yeah. I need to read this, and that shows
it's a good series, man.
It shows the power of like doing a crossover for new readers, which I think some of these companies, they don't understand, do they?
No.
But reading The Ambassadors, they didn't take a break in issue 4 to go off and do a team-up thing.
Yeah.
No.
Do you know what I mean? They told a story over 6 issues, and of course there's more to it, right? But actually, they told a story over 6 issues, and I'm like, great. And then there's a team-up. Not like, cool, I'm now getting into something about, I've got to go now and read got to read about some vampires for a bit. But brilliant.
I didn't realise that a certain movie is Millarverse as well, which got spoiled. Well, I won't spoil it, but it got spoiled. I didn't worry about it being spoiled, but
I know the one you're talking about.
Really? I don't.
Yeah. Well, we'll talk about it off air.
Okay.
Tony, would you like to recommend? That's a great. I haven't read that, yet, so I need to get on that.
Yeah, I really rated that. Yeah. My first one is Fractures, book 2 for £8. Absolutely excellent price by our buddy Wolfgang Crowe, published by Collossive Press. I've been looking forward to this one for a while now. When we chatted to Wolfgang, he was extremely revealing and honest, and I don't know why. Sometimes it improves the reading experience when you hear someone's genuine sort of conversation.
It totally can. Like there are sometimes we've had it with interviews with creators where we either don't know them or we're not really sold on them, and we have such a nice chat with them that all of a sudden you reread the books and you're like, this,
sold.
I got a lot more out of Breakwater.
With Cat. Me too.
Yeah,
me too. Actually, Cat's new one's looking good. It's shaping up on you following them on Instagram. So I jumped on this as soon as it came out. I know a couple of you have ordered it as well. It continues straight on from issue 1. The police have arrived to arrest Wolfgang as a counter allegation has been made against him by Ken Walden, who is the homophobic man who attacks him in the first volume. And there's this terrible fight that I applaud Wolfgang to show the reality of a fight, which we so rarely see, don't we? In any kind of media at the moment.
Yeah.
But he shows the reality. Well, what this book is, it then shows the aftermath of the fight and the implications legally, physically, emotionally, spiritually. It shows a lot of it. And he uses a framing sequence, as he did in the first issue, with the chat with the counsellor, the psychologist. But it happens within a single frame of a page. So you get the chat with the psychologist. You get him being led away by the police officers, the uniformed police, who have big eyeballs as heads. That's how he's kind of interpreting them, which is an interesting image to see and see what he means by it. But amongst that, you get black and white tiles. Like the Red Room in Twin Peaks, that sort of black and white tiled floor.
Yeah.
And you get this monstrous head that looms over the top of it, as if directing and viewing and impressing on you the nightmare situation. So it's a real nightmare to have that, because it's an extremely heavy situation. He's had this terrible beating. The man has been taken away by the police. He's been arrested, but he has made a counter allegation to say that no, he was attacked. So he isn't the aggressor. He's the victim, which is just fucking ridiculous.
I presume that's relatively common.
I think so.
Yeah,
I think so. And it's a lovely opening page. And there's a real unreality to you throughout the first book, and especially throughout the second book. You really dig into the emotions of Wolfgang and how he feels about everything, and he does it very well. during the interview with the police, his sexuality is discussed, and you see how he feels about his near-death experience, and you sense that the PTSD very strongly here, as you did in the first one. This one kind of presses it a bit more. And he's taken back to the hospital because he starts coughing up blood, and he starts in his head the blame game, trying to explain, perhaps I shouldn't have done this, perhaps they shouldn't have done this. Tries to explain why it happened. And when you live in the trauma of something, you interpret it too densely, don't you? Interpret it too much, and he begins to do that. And the aftermath of violence, really, he finds it really hard to cope with. And we see his friends. So this has a bigger cast, I'd say. This comic, while the first one was much more perhaps about Wolfgang as a lone person. We had the stuff at sea, we had the rain of mugs, we had him laying in the water, stuff like that. This is much more an ensemble cast with him at the centre of it. Again, you see his friends. Who had dealt with in a very sort of realistic way. He starts using drugs as a way of coping. He throws himself back into his nightlife, but finds out differently. Boyfriends, friends, sexual relationships. But what he does towards the end, he begins to do physical exercise, which is very is a great thing for mental health, isn't it? Running, they say, don't they? Is a great thing for it.
Yeah.
Very worthy. Not perhaps as action as the first one, but of course, can it be? Yeah, and it shouldn't be, because that's the aftermath. It's how he's seen. But he doesn't hold back again. There's a lot of use of visual metaphors in this. Apart from that opening page, which I mentioned, there's a captured moment in a memory, perhaps. What he does a couple of times, he puts a frame, like an ornate picture frame, around scenes, and he does it a couple of times. And it's not something that is like on the nose, hit on, look at what I'm doing here, but occasionally he captures a scene within a frame, and it's almost like he's captured a moment. The cover, he uses it on the cover actually as well. If you have a look at the cover, it's actually a picture frame. So what he's saying there is there's almost like a moment which just he holds on to. When you've got PTSD, you hold on to memories and stuff like that, and he holds on to these things. And there's one where his parents are driving him to the hospital after he started coughing up blood, and it's just like a weird postcardy landscape of the car going down the road, and you've got a lighthouse, and you've got the landscape around him, and it's really interesting technique. We get one page which is him surrounded by keys and a calendar being marked off for the passage of time. And I think it's the passage of time that leads to him having to go back into the shop and work again, which is what he doesn't want to do. And his parents have done it, so they have to lock the door. So anyone who wants to come in has to press the buzzer. So the keys are showing him locked in. What's happening? There's this moment in it, it's really interesting. An old man comes in, clearly a bit of a crazy man, and he comes in and he starts telling Wolfgang about this terrible murder in the town and how the body got cut up and all this sort of thing, and it just stays with him. Those words stay with him. I mean, there's so much more I could talk about in this book. That's barely scratching the surface of it. But another really good, really insightful, really interesting, very emotional story of trauma, really. And get on it. It's at Collossive Press. I got in early. I think you might be lucky, Dan, because you got a badge with it if you got in the so many orders.
I ordered mine literally as soon as you posted your picture up. So
you might be right. Yeah. It comes with like an enamel badge, which I think he made himself. That is again in a little picture frame, so that goes back to show what he's doing there.
Yeah.
You can go to Collossive, COLOSSIVE, Collossive.com, Instagram at Collossive Press, or you can follow Wolfgang on Instagram. Wolfgang Crowe. Crowe's got an E on the end of it. Yeah, probably easily one of my favourite indie books of the year so far, if not the last three or 4 years. Yeah, very good.
Is there any indication of how many he's going to run for?
I think it's 4.
4, okay.
I like to think there'd be a collection as well. It's the same A4, black and white, perfect bound.
Yeah, it makes sense to that would work as a collection.
£8, man, as well. Cracking value. That's like a trade.
I think also it's refreshing to hear about an auto comic that feels more real. Do you know what I mean?
It doesn't just show the good side of people.
It just shows like this is how someone's life is, and like, hey, these are the things he's dealing with, and yeah.
I mean, in more ways than one, he puts it out there, man. He puts it all. Yeah. It may not be for everyone, to be fair, because it's very raw. But I applaud him totally for it. This is what we need. Yeah.
I mean, it might be like
you can do this in indie comics, you know.
Yeah.
You could have gone through similar experiences, and it might kind of make you feel relatively uncomfortable reading. It might work for you though. Do you know what I mean?
If it can help you. Yeah. Yeah, let's give a shout out to mind.org as well, which is a great charity if you're suffering from a similar. There you go.
Nice. Okay. Hard to top, but Dan, what do you want to recommend?
Hey, we got sent this through the other week, and I read it, and I was fucking blown away by it. And it's Prawn the Jumbo Shrimp, Prawn in 60 Seconds, by our friend Matt Strott. He's been working on this for a little while, and bloody hell, you can really tell. Every page, every panel just seems like it's had its time spent on it. Do you know what I mean? There's a real draftsmanship and quality in each one of them. It's just so well done. And
I was saying to you, Dan, I got like an Ashcan when he met me. He did like a photocopy of it because it wasn't ready yet in September when I was in Baltimore. And he, the colour since then, the way he's treated that sort of flat colour in it works so well.
Oh, so
really
so
slick.
Good.
Yeah.
How would you describe it? It's kind of like a King Kong pastiche parody with a bunch of other elements in it.
Like there's the soup, there's like a Bond villain in it, and
it's kind of only a comic. And only a story that could tell and work in a comic for me, and it works so well. It's the perfect medium for it. With Prawn the Jumbo Ship like attacking New York, and all these other subplots and movie pastiches and
also
parodies.
sort of attacking as well.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
It's great. I really enjoyed it. I can't wait for to grab a print copy. You're gonna have to follow at Messy Comics on Twitter to see when you can get hold of your copy, because I can't recommend it highly enough. I absolutely loved it. It's an absolute joy to read. The attention to detail on some of the artwork, the A10 tank killers which he's got popping up in it. Oh, it's great. So well done, Matt. Really good stuff. I can see why it's taken you a while, because great workmanship. Love it.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay, my recommend this week is a bit darker. It's an issue 1 out from Image, called The Six Fingers. You heard this one?
No.
But I knew as soon as I say it, Tony would laugh. But this is by Dan Waters, writer. I know I've said the name wrong. Apologies. Sumit Kumar is the artist. Lee Lowridge is the colorist. Aditya Bidikar is the letterer, Tom Muller is the designer, Will Dennis is the editor, and Erica Schnatz is the production artist. That's
Lee Lowridge is really the colorist at the moment, I think. He's colouring so many great books.
I to be honest, I wasn't au fait with the name, but this is an example of a colorist just doing damn fine work.
Nice.
And also Kumar's artwork is spectacular. It sort of reminds me of a little bit of a Black Science. The names always escape me. Who was it who did Black Science?
Oh God, he's just on the bloody Global Comics front page.
Just bloody unbelievable. Apologies.
I read it the other day.
Yeah. But
you're looking it up, Dan.
Certainly, this is very much
Rick Remender. Matteo Scalera.
Matteo Scalera, he's a fucking juggernaut, that dude.
Absolute juggernaut, amazing. And this very much an artist in that sort of vein as well. That sort of style of like figures, sort of faces. You know, each one has like not a realistic look, do they? But it's almost like an animated look in a way. But it therefore makes it
lovely bit of style with him. I think a lovely bit of cartooning.
Yeah,
but he can carry off a lot of action and stuff, can't he?
Yeah. And this is very much the same, but this particular book itself is quite interesting. I went into it, as I always do, knowing nothing, absolutely nothing. I was taken by the cover, because the cover is very graphic designy, tied in to another cover that I've seen of another book coming out, so I don't know. It's a bit of a mystery how these things are going to mesh. But synopsis, which I'm just going to read the beginning of. Neo-Navina archaeology student Johannes Vale has always been so very in control of his life, but when he commits a brutal murder using the MO of a historic and notorious serial killer, everything begins to spiral out of control, primarily as he doesn't remember doing it. What follows is a deadly cat-and-mouse game as he seeks refuge in the rain-soaked streets of Neo-Navina, as it says. Now, it says, like, for fans of Blade Runner, Ghost in the Shell, and Black Mirror. I didn't really get that from this issue. I didn't get those sort of...
okay.
I mean, it's certainly a futuristic city kind of vibe. The feeling I got from this is very much David Fincher meets David Cronenberg making a futuristic serial killer sort of story, but the mystery is at the forefront. And the first couple of pages, I thought, because it's got like a yellow and black kind of cover, it's quite striking. I thought, what's this going to be like? And as soon as within 3 pages, there was quite a dark and gory scene. So if you're not into like grim serial killer type stuff, maybe this isn't a book for you. But certainly, I was like, oh wow, like bits of dead body sort of merged together. And you see the killer at the beginning. As always, the classic, you don't see the killer's face. So who knows how the mystery's going to play out. They are painting this design on the wall over and over. Like, well, it's like loads of different symbols. It's the symbols that if you look at the cover of Six Fingers #1, there's like 3 blocks on it, 3 sort of square blocks. They almost look like the tattoos that like Storm Shadow and Snake Eyes have. Those
other ones.
It's all made up of those sort of patterns. And there's an entire wall made up of these square sort of like designs. And I was like, something's going on here. What is going on here? The first issue doesn't really give it away, but after that first sort of like pre-credit scene, if you know what I mean, you get to know the main character. There's not loads of different... They don't throw loads of information at you. For instance, it doesn't tell you that, this is a sci-fi city. It doesn't do any sort of like exposition of that. Because also as a reader, I don't need that. I saw that there was a futuristic... He's walking through the streets at one point, and there's this sort of cleaner, this sanitation cleaner, and the sort of thing he's using to wash the streets is clearly futuristic in some way. Do you know what I mean? So I think sometimes that's all you need is a shorthand sort of visual clues, isn't it, really? Rather than to say, after the post... So many books say after the war there was all of this. You don't need to do that. No. This drops you into this sort of world, but takes you on a crime mystery story. And it sort of captivated me all the way through it. I mean, I think Waters' sort of books are really... I mean, he's worked with Caspar Wingard on lots of stuff, and those two sort of came up together. And it left me... There wasn't so much of a cliffhanger, sort of a big sort of epic ending, but it was more sort of a mystery to be continued, sort of like what's happening, because this guy... He works in a power plant. Why it's called the Six Fingers as well. He works in this sort of power plant just to sort of make ends meet because he's a student. And he's trying to get this project off the ground, and he's being told no at every point. So after the next no, he's pissed off. He goes to work, and he puts on the hazmat suit and everything. There's problems. There's like this... One of these chambers is filling up with this toxic liquid, and you're not supposed to go in there. And he's like, I'll go in and sort it. And he goes in and he fixes it and then comes out. And then the next day he's feeling fine. But when he goes to the doctor, because he's being forced to, they realise he's growing a 6th finger on his hand. But it's like a little nub. And it's those sort of things that make me think Cronenberg. That sort of weird... it's not really obvious. There's just a weird sort of little stump that is... You see throughout the whole book, but... They don't really mention it. It's not really brought up, apart from the doctors sort of like pointing this out. So I'm wondering, I mean, it's obviously the title of the book, so I'm wondering, where is this going?
Where's that going?
Yeah, he's going to an art gallery, and there's sort of, this weird sort of these statues and stuff. And when he looks at one, it's like bits of these androids put together, but they all seem to be bleeding. And he's like, what's that one all about? And there's a bit of a conversation. Rereading it now... And once you got like a bit of the reveal of him realising something's happened, rereading that, I'm now thinking, is he the only one seeing that? Do you know what I mean? It's like that sort of scene of...
You're seeing the world through his eyes.
Yeah,
it's like,
yeah.
Sort of like a narrator.
Yeah, it could be that is what it is, but I just suddenly thought, interesting.
Is this a trade, is it? Or is it, are they doing like an issue at a time?
It will be a trade. I think it's 4 issues it's going to be, I think. And like I say... This seems to be tying in to another book, which there is 4 issues, as I can see. There's gonna be 4 issues. It ties in. You see some characters, and they're just brought up in some panels. And when you see a character in a book, you think, I think they're going to be important, but it doesn't really say. And then there's some back matter in the book it's a preview for The One Hand, which is by Ram V, Lawrence Campbell, Lee Lowridge. A lot of the same group, actually, apart from it's Ram V and Lawrence Campbell doing the artwork. And this seems to be a couple of cops who have investigated this serial killer case, and it's almost there at the end of it, and they're being hassled about it. I don't quite know, but it's still got the similar sort of designs, but they're in a different space on the cover than Six Fingers was. So I just thought, interesting. It makes me
different writer as well from Zan.
Yeah.
Okay. Three in the pink, three in the stink.
Who's the publisher for this thing? Sorry, I'm sure you said at the beginning.
This is Image. This is
Image.
Yeah.
Okay.
I can see that the One Hand has already started as well, because that came out in March. So that there are a couple of issues in of both series, I believe. And it's one of those things. It's captured my imagination of are these going to be linked? Are they part of the same universe? How is this? Because it's certainly, I read this on its own and it didn't feel like you needed to read anything else. But I think it's an interesting experimentation of doing things with narratives. So I think I'll definitely read the first issue of The One Hand as well. But I'm going to read a couple more issues of this one just to see where it goes. I think 2 issues of the Six Fingers is out now. And well worth it. Yeah.
12 Fingers then.
Well, I mean,
he hasn't got a nub on his other hand.
By the end of it, it'll be 24. I mean,
to his toes. Yes. You never know, do you?
Well, exactly. Yeah, because his feet were in the gunk all that time. God, he could have billions of them. Who knows? But those are the important questions that I want answered. So that's my one. Go on.
Should have followed these workplace health and safety regulations.
He absolutely should have, because he was told off because of it, Dan. And that's what we can learn. We can learn so much from comics, can't we?
Yeah.
And always pay attention to your health and safety manual.
That's like a long form sort of obey health and safety regulations.
That's like a mandatory training. We've done our mandatory training now with one. I've got a very long big toe, which I refer to as Toby toe.
Okay.
Yeah. Did he get involved in any kind of radioactive gunk on your feet?
Well, there's a possibility, isn't there?
Yeah,
you never know, do you?
Having this when you're a kid, you get done to radioactive because you think this is my time, and you just get one big toe.
Yeah,
shit in it, shit me in power. Just got one big hairy toe.
One big toe.
Just imagine if that was your superpower. I mean, it's why should you be part of our supergroup? Check that out.
Yeah.
Mind you can go to a party and say, "Oh, what's that?" And that's my big hairy toe.
Yeah.
I get through socks like no one business.
Yeah.
That's the thing. Let's rag on the X-Men a bit, but no, all the mutant powers are always I'll fly, I can turn invisible. It's got something I can turn this small patch from my skin invisible, but nothing else.
Oh, it's like that. It's like that show Extraordinary. I absolutely love that, and the second season of that just came out on Disney Plus.
Isn't it about a character who's got no powers? She's got no powers.
She's the only person with no powers in the world full of powers. And there's one guy that works in this office. His only power is he knows exactly when women are menstruating each month.
Oh.
So he's like, don't talk to Deborah. Don't talk to Deborah.
Go, T. Go on.
I can normally tell.
We're going to set up a new email for complaints.
Points of view. ACP.
We call it
satire.
We call it the spam folder.
A complaints folder.
The old switcheroo events.
You know me. No, in all seriousness, we respect you all. Speaking of respect, Tony.
Oh, last one, Vector 13. Pete Duncan, who's on the Slack. He's the dude behind this 2000 AD fan comic. And I noticed that he put, when we're talking about silent comics, he'd done one of them, which is a silent comic. And he said,
nice.
He says, you can have the lot for 30, I think it's 38 quid. You get 7 issues plus a couple of little sort of specials. 38 quid. So I thought, I'm going to have that because I've never read this before. I'm a 2000 AD fan. And I thought I'd go that. And I could say, pretty slick. Yeah. He knows what he's doing, Pete. He talks a bit about his other work as well, if you go on the Slack. Magazine size, glossy cover, a mix of colour and black and white stories inside. I'm going to show, I know we're not an audio, but I'm an audio podcast, so I'm going to show you the cover.
Oh, nice.
Actually, pretty good.
Nice.
Yeah, a nice
That's really nice.
Yeah. By Will Simpson. Lovely use of green and grey and blue tones there.
What issue is that, T? So people look up
issue 7.
Issue 7 cover.
Yeah, and Vince will like this because I think the red title pops on that.
Oh,
A
totally.
reg tie on the
Yeah,
top
absolutely.
of it. It really works.
But the
Yeah.
grey as well, yeah.
Yeah, you need to be careful, like putting red text on anything. So, but I think they're also having is that a glossy cover or is that in a bag?
Glossy.
Yeah.
There's Tyranny Rex climbing out of the grave, who's a 2000 AD character. People know this stuff. Really good stuff.
I didn't know that.
There you go. Stories Inside continue the love for UK comics as well as just 2000 AD. The first one is called Sector 13, which is a series that continues through the titles. Forever Young, and it's a photo story. How cool is that?
That's great.
We don't see enough photo stories.
No.
You know, when you think of all the sort of Doom Lord stuff and all this sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
I really liked it. Written by Pete Duncan and Lawrence McKenna, art by Lawrence McKenna. It's not just photo story, but it has background. The art, there's a lot of background art as well. So technically, there's an art thing going on. Letters by Patrick Brown. I genuinely think you can see in the faces of the actors in it that they're acting, but they're having fun as well.
Yeah,
I think you can tell that a bit. You know, the second one is Tyranny Has Risen from the Grave, and it's the title story. It's by John Smith and Will Simpson, black and white. Really lovely line work. I'm reminded of something you might have seen maybe in Dark Horse Presents or maybe Epic Magazine. There's Will has got some real Neil Adams chops in it actually. There's some nice close up. You know, Adams did those big faces sometimes, and really nice. Judge Watley is Peter Duncan writing, art by Joseph P. Parangue. Letters Patrick Brown. I'm going to say I think this is probably my favourite story. This is another extension of the Dread Mega City 1, Mega City 2 thing, and it's a load of really lovely black and white heavy ink. Opening panel is I think it's my favourite. You get a point of view from the water level, and there's these sort of dead heads, dead people heads floating in the water, and above you is this great big sort of city on legs in the water. A beautiful page. It's got things. The people are dead dredger workers, and they're forced to work in relation to this big metallic sea, but things get really demonic and really kick off, and there's a brilliant double page spread. So suddenly out of the blue, bang, you get this double page spread. So I think it really works. So I won't spoil anything from that one. The laced is Robert T. Wright, Joseph McCaffrey, letters Patrick Brown again. It's a kind of one-off horror story with some sort of class differences used in there. They play on the class of people. It's almost like a bit Philip K. Dick kind of a vibe to it. Burning Time is by writer Maxine Poe, artist Patrick Brown, and it's they've gone full Misty with it. So it's even got the horror host thing, sort of top corner, really nice. Held to Account, black and white. Matt Badham, John Freeman wrote it. Good old John. John's back in the house. Art and lettering by Stay Pickford. It's a story of a judge called Titus Meek, who's a little bit out of his comfort zone when he was asked to help with the crowd control riot situation, because he's kind of like an accountant judge.
Okay.
But fuck me, there's detail on that in that art that would make Chris Weston proud.
Wow.
Fucking brilliant. Really good.
Oh, brilliant.
Really good. There's a couple of other ones. Strott and Dog, Super Heavy, W.D. McCabe, Patrick Brown. Really high standard. As we say often, not everything hits in an anthology. I don't think there's very rare we'll find an anthology where everything hits, but the majority of this is really good.
Fantastic.
He's putting together some impressive comics, I think, Pete. From what he's talking about there, and this is a really impressive lineup. When he said that, he said, don't be too hard on me, because you can see the way it changes from volume 1 to volume 7, issue 7. You know?
Great. You want to see growth?
Fucking standard, like the standard from 1 onwards is good, and 7's really good.
That's brilliant.
I think the best place to find people, if you go to the page on Facebook, Vector 13, or if you go to boxofrainmag.co.uk/sector 13. Sector 13, sorry. If on the Slack, you can speak to him. I'm sure he can hook you up with the link and everything. But that's where I got to chat to him. Yeah, really good. If you're a 2000 AD fan, I'd say this is a must buy. There's a few 2000 AD zines out there, aren't there? And they're all like really good. And this is another one that I hadn't seen, much to my shame. There they go. That's my second one.
Does the Sector 13 that relevant?
Yeah, sorry, mate. Yeah, sorry.
Is that relevant to like 2000 AD lore? Is that part?
I think it must be just a sector in Mega City.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, I'm sure it will be. Yeah, I don't know my Dreadlaw enough to know which sector it is. Whether it's like the Sector 13, you would think maybe it's the haunted sector or something.
Yeah, that's what he's thinking. Is there some kind of thing there? Well, I'm sure we'll find out on the Slack after this episode's posted.
Yeah, speaking of which, we hope you have enjoyed this week's episode. And if you want to be part of the Slack community, the snack.
I want to be part of the snack community.
The snack community.
Oh, yeah. Get some snacks and join our Slack. God, I can't believe I said that correct, and I couldn't say.
What's your on snacker choice?
I'm a fan of the peanut.
I like a Ritz cracker.
Ritz cracker.
Ooh.
Toast.
Yeah.
Toast is good. Yeah, I'm a fan of toast. Yeah.
Dan.
Toast is great.
I mean, I love toast.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so much you can do with toast. But also, that's a little bit of a basic bitch answer, isn't it?
No, but then that's like you could put like jam on it, peanut butter, butter, anything you want to do.
Yeah, I see what you mean. I mean, I spoke about Ritz cracker, which is just a salted cracker, isn't it? So there's not much.
Still great snack.
Yeah, you can put cheese
Tom,
with
and you?
Tuck biscuit.
Oh yes.
Oh yeah.
What kind of biscuit?
A tuck biscuit.
I like them. Yeah.
The one
they're good
really,
with cheese as well, though, aren't they?
The one with the acidic powdered cheesy cream in the middle.
Yeah, already in the middle.
Which is.
So I'll just have another one. Oh, that's the end of the packet.
Yeah.
And you can get more insights to this on the Snack community.
Yes.
You can. Yes.
Snack channel coming soon.
Snack channel coming soon.
Yeah.
Is there a Snatch channel?
No, please don't create one. But on the Slack community, there is a fantastic group of different channels about like creating comics. There's conversation about this show. Keep it going in the conversation.
The movie channel.
We discovered that today, didn't we, Vince?
Yeah. You was doing the movie thing today, weren't you? T on what's the name of the film?
I can't remember. It's about an Easter bunny. I did like a watch along. Matt Bunce made me do it. It's his fault.
Yeah, shout out.
It was kind of Easter related, wasn't it?
Sorry.
It was Easter related. It had a bunny in it.
Yeah, it's like, and he said, I started going on about it. He says, I haven't seen it. I've just thought it was funny. Stop going on about it. He almost, I said, no, I'm not going to stop going on about it. I'm going to stay talking about women in bikinis getting murdered.
You made your bed, Matt.
He went with it.
Easter Day, for those who are interested.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, there you go. Yet more high quality content on this show.
Yeah,
but ignore us because there's a great group of people on the Slack community, so get in touch with us to join them. And if you want us to talk about anything else on this show going forward, whether it be new comics coming out, new comics initiatives, any events, any charity stuff, we'll always be prepared to shout that out. And there's several different ways you can get in touch with us. You can email us awesomecomicspod@gmail.com. You can catch us on Twitter @theawesomepod. On Instagram we are Tony @awesomecomicspod. Tony's got the keys to the Instagram, so
I do a lot of Instagram.
I did a great job on there.
If you're a friend of the show or a Slack member and you put stuff up there, if I see it, it'll get reposted. Yeah, I try my best on there every day for everyone.
Yeah,
and I put sooty and sweet stuff up.
Yeah, which you should.
Big shout out to Mike Sadaka because he found a painted egg, which was a picture of Sweep, and he sent it to me today.
Oh, amazing. Isn't that lovely?
Yeah, I think so.
Happy Easter, everyone, and thank you for listening, whether it was on the website, awesomecomics.podbean.com. If you listened on Apple Podcasts, please leave us a nice review. Helps get the word out about the show and everything that we talk about on a weekly basis. And, we're very needy, so we need the reviews, and you can also review us on Spotify, so please do it, because we've got a podcast, so therefore we're desperate for attention. You can also listen to us on Amazon, Stitcher, Podnose, Podknife. What other networks are we on, Tony?
We're on the Pod Network. Spread positivity. You look prettier when you smile.
Oh, Jesus. But thank you for saying that, Tony.
It's all right.
I feel nice now. I feel,
You look pretty.
Thanks. And doing the show always makes me smile, and we hope you lovely people at home have enjoyed it. And thank you for joining us, Tom, for the chat and everything that went down.
That's all right, no worries at all.
And where can people where can people find you online, etc.?
At my house, normally.
Not
Give
online.
the address out.
Don't. When I said online, you said your house. What is it? Have you got like a?
He lives in a
Wi-Fi
matrix.
router.
Oh,
yeah, the Wi-Fi router. It's great. Yeah, I mean that. Who cares?
No one find him. No one find him. Yeah.
Yes.
Honestly,
Back in the system. Curry's on the show.
Yeah.
I mean, like,
we know where to find him, and that's all that matters.
Yeah. That's all that matters, right?
Yeah.
If you can find me, you know where to find me.
Oh my word, that sounds.
It's like the A-Team.
Yeah. It's true. Yeah. Oh God, I've got to prep that theme for the next time Tom's on. Tony, where can people find you?
Neverendingthing.com.
Oh, that was lovely. I love the little noise at the end. That was delightful. Dan.
You can find me on Twitter, aka X, Vanguard Comic. And you can read Vanguard at vanguardcomic.com.
Cool. And you can catch me on the social media at Jester Diablo. Thank you very much for listening to this week's episode. We hope you learned a lot, laughed a lot, loved a lot. That's what we do every week, and we'll be back next week for even more.
It's a new one. I like this one.
What? That I just made that up.
Nice little outro. It's good. I like that.
Yeah, that's a good
one. Yeah. It was so good. I can't remember what I was going to say now. So
we're recording.
While I'm looking at my notes, what should the listeners do, guys?
Stay awesome.
Stay awesome.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.